Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Case by Case. This is Amy. It's 1:00, and we are doing a complete case review today on the Ashley Garth case. And we're going to go from beginning to end, hopefully in one episode. I have several guests here with me today that I'm going to introduce. We are going to start with someone that you know. We're going to start with, we're going to introduce Rhonda. Hey, Rhonda.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm hanging around as long as I can. How are you?
I, I'm better. I'm so
Oh, good,
excited that I'm
good.
feeling better.
Oh, good for
It's been a
you.
long
That's
week.
good
It's been a
news.
up and down week.
Yeah.
So it's back to work tomorrow for me. But I
Oh,
wanted to get in as much today as I possibly could since I wasn't able to get anything done this week being sick.
yeah. Yeah. It's hard to get caught up.
It is. Hey Shar. Hey Donna. Hey Tanya. Next up, we're going to bring in Amber. Hey Amber.
Hey, I'm
Do you want
Amber.
to go ahead?
I am a lifetime friend of Ashley's. We've known each other probably since about sixth grade. And I'm here to help support her and any questions you guys got.
Right. Next up, I'm going to bring in Shadow. Hey, Shadow.
Hello.
Go ahead and take a few seconds to introduce yourself to everybody. Can you hear me? Oh, I think her mic's
Now I can.
there. You go. There you. Sorry, I think I
Oh my!
muted you when you were unmuting. you're
It keeps
Now you're unmuted. Go
clicking
ahead.
on and off, on and off.
Go ahead.
But I didn't hear everything you said.
Sorry. Go ahead. I just said go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Oh, yeah, I'm Shadow, and I just have been, I don't know, interested in this case, so I've been looking deep into everything.
And Shadow lives. Shadow's from Indiana, so she's really familiar with the areas that we're
Yeah,
talking
I don't
about.
live too far.
And
Yeah, I don't
then
live too
there's Dee.
far from.
Wait a second. I've got a whole nother thing here popping up. All right. I'm going to bring Dee on. Hey, Dee.
Hey,
Hey, Dee.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Awesome. I'm Dee. I am from the area. I grew up close to Delphi. I've followed all of the area cases for about 3 years now. I've always been really, I guess, just interested in the law, and I've just been a really firm supporter of due process and the Constitution of the United States, which it's like a dirty word to say that anymore, but and I'm just interested to learn more about the case and help out where I can.
Well, thank you. So, before we get into, we have a lot to go into today. Before we get into that, I just wanted to touch base on the channel and what's going on with the channel. We have super chats now available. We have super stickers available. We have memberships available that will provide private live streams and different things, perks, so to speak, to go along with the channel. That will just minimally support the channel and the cost of running the channel. And we also have several different Facebook pages going right now. We are actually live on YouTube, and we are live in Ashley Garth's case discussion Facebook group. And soon we will be adding Instagram to the live feed as well. There's a brand new case by case Facebook page where a lot of information is going to be posted on a regular basis. I can actually, because I do work a real job outside of doing YouTube, not that YouTube's my full time job, but there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes to put together these lives and whatnot. So um, the new Facebook page will also allow me to schedule things for me to have going on while I'm actually at my day job. But with that said, I also want to discuss really in depth. We have launched Ashley Garth's project, which is the fundraising campaign that we are raising funds to help alleviate the costs of any type of expert going forward that's going to be required for her case. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes with this, and we felt that it's going to be a must that we do raise some funds to help offset those costs. And I look at it simply like this: this YouTube channel is growing. Every single week, we are well over 1,100 followers on the channel. And if all of my followers were to donate, say, $5 to the campaign, I mean, we would very quickly hit over 5 grand in savings to help put towards hiring an expert in the area that we need. If you can't contribute, that's completely understandable. That does not mean that you're not welcome to listen. All we ask is that you simply share it, share the information, share the case. That alone is helpful enough. We have quite a bit on the channel so far, but I felt it was time, with all the new followers on the case, that we take a step back and really retouch and recap on the case from beginning to end, all in one live stream. That way, I have a place to direct people who are new to the case coming in, who have a place to go and listen and understand going forward on the channel all of the different lives that we've done, and all the people between the guests that I've had on, who Travis is, who Dr. Silkman is, who Cherie and Rhonda are, and Amber, and understand that with the addition of Shadow and Dee, we have quite a bit of people doing research on this case that have been very, very helpful. And there's a lot more to come, in as far as not just with Ashley's case, but some of the people very close to this case, things that we've uncovered that we're going to be sharing in the near future once the research is done correctly and vetted, which is one thing that we do extremely in depth on this channel. Is I make sure that before the information makes it to you, we have concrete proof that what we're putting out there is true. Donna said, "Oh, it's full time, girl." I know. You would think so. And Donna's asking what happened with Garrett's plea. I'm not going to get into the details of Garrett's plea until after Thursday. I'm going to let the judge and the court in White County hear hear what the confinements of the plea is before I discuss it, out of respect for Ray's family. The judge still has the right to rule in favor of accepting the plea or denying the plea. So I'm going to hold off on that. Just know that there was a plea signed last week on Martin Luther King Day. That did happen. And so I'm going to hold off on going any further in depth on that. I hope you understand, but it's so justice is carried out in Ray's case. Jennifer's asking, what would that mean, hiring attorney or retainer or similar? Right now, Jennifer, where Ashley's case is in a stay status. in the public defender's office in Indiana. Indiana does provide for a paid public defender for her case. It's on a first serve or first come first serve basis. What we are looking to do is having funds on hand to either assist that public defender or to retain a more well-rounded attorney for post-conviction relief. Right now, we feel that raising the funds to have on hand to do what's needed in the future is our best course of action. And that money will not be spent in any way, shape, or form until those decisions are made, and those decisions will be made by Ashley and her family. We are just the conductor of getting the link out there to help raise the funds. And a little bit goes a long way by each and every person. And if you, after learning in depth about this case, if you feel that there's an injustice that's been made here, your contribution would be well appreciated and well spent. So let's see here. We are going to, what I wanted to do is we're going to go back to the very beginning in this case. We're going to start with where things started with Ashley, in my opinion, which is well before the murder of Nicole Bowen. And Nicole Bowen is the victim in this case. She's the one who lost her life in March of 2019. Prior to Nicole coming into the picture, there was Ashley. Ashley was born and raised in Delphi, Indiana. Her family is well rooted there. And Ashley went to high school there, graduated. She's had a son in Delphi, and ultimately became involved with a young man by the name of Garrett Kurtz. Garrett Kurtz is, let me see here, I'm going to pull up some good stuff here. So let me go full screen with it. I hope you guys can see that okay. So Ashley is from Delphi, Indiana. And most people that are familiar with Delphi are familiar with Delphi because of the current case that's going on right now, which is the Delphi murders of Abby and Libby. This case is not, it's not directly connected with the Delphi case. However, for a very long time, it was thought to be connected. So on the right-hand side, as you can see, there's an Indiana map of all of the different counties. And up in the far left-hand corner, you're going to see the yellow box of Newton County, which is the county where this case that we're talking about took place. Newton County is where Nicole Bowen lost her life. And you can see the direct line from Newton County over to Carroll County. That's where Delphi is located. That is where Ashley's from. But surrounding those areas, you're going to see to the left of Carroll County, you're going to see Tippecanoe. Tippecanoe is a county that we are going to talk about in this case. You're going to see White County, Jasper County, Pulaski, and then further down at the bottom, you're going to see Crawford, Crawfordsville, Tipton, Howard, Cass County. A lot of these counties are all surrounding each other, but for the most part, they're all within like an hour drive of each other. So it's not like they're very, it's not a 10-minute hop and skip of the jump. Hey, Cherie. Cherie's with us. She says she's on break. Hey, girl. Cherie and Rhonda will both be on with me tonight at 7. So, but there's the Indiana map. And then we're going to pop over here to Garrett and Ashley. Garrett and Ashley is from Delphi. Garrett is technically from, it's kind of a little bit of a mystery. It's either Brookston or Lebanon. I believe he is originally from Brookston, or that's where he was from at the time, where his family was from. But Garrett and Ashley were together on and off for about 3 to 4 years. It was a volatile relationship, and it didn't start off so negative, but it slowly but surely progressed to be a negative relationship. And Ashley, Garrett lived with Ashley, and he also was living off of his parents. His parents provided him money, and anything that he pretty much wanted or asked for, he was handed. And Garrett had been experimenting with drugs from the early age of 12 years old. Um, as time went on in their relationship, Garrett became very controlling, possessive, and violent. And in 2016, Ashley had made the decision that she was going to separate from Garrett. She reached out to her family, expressing her concern that she felt that she had been herself becoming dependent on drugs. Uh, Methamphetamines was her drug of choice, along with Garrett. Garrett was also actually Garrett's drug of choice at that time was spice, which is a synthetic marijuana. And Ashley felt that she was getting in over her head, and she was smart enough to know, I got a problem. She reached out to her family, and a family member who I know who he is. He did provide Ashley with transportation to Florida. She moved to Florida in 2016, where she attended a Red Cross sponsored rehab center for 6 months. And then she took a job in Florida, and she got her life back on track. She got clean. And after being there for a year, being away from her son, she felt it was time that she come home. And she did. And at that time, when she came home, Garrett was most recently being released from a work release program, where he himself also were he was clean. Donna, let me see here. I'm going to check the chat really fast because I see the chat's blowing up. Could one of the mods put up the Facebook link? Yeah, Amber, can you put up the Facebook link for Ashley's Facebook page and the new case by case page as well?
Yes, I will.
Yes, Donna, thanks for pointing that out. Donna's pointing out that super chats and super stickers on YouTube does take a huge chunk. So I'm just going to post in the link the channel's Cash App, which does go directly to a fund that I can immediately have access to. That's helpful. Thank you, Donna. Also in the description are the links to the channel's Venmo, Buy Me a Coffee, the Cash App, and also Ashley's campaign is also in the channel's description. Oh, thank you, Cherie. Cherie added it. Oh, Amber, can you approve Rhonda's request on the Facebook group, by the way? Oh, I didn't realize that you weren't in there.
I didn't either, Amy. I thought I had joined, but obviously I hadn't. And so
I don't see one friend request pending.
Yeah, Rhonda, request to join. We've had to monitor that quite a bit because we've had a lot of naysayers like create fake accounts trying to get in there, and that group is for solid supporters of Ashley only. So somehow it might have gotten lost in the spaghetti sauce. So we'll get you added. There you go. She got you added.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Just got her.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that background, as far as Ashley and Garrett goes, Ashley did return to Delphi after she got everything with her life straightened out. And I just want to clarify some things about Ashley before we go any further. And that is that prior to going to Florida, and even after coming back from Florida, we can. I'm not going to go through the painstaking of pulling it in because I have so much already preloaded in here for today. But Ashley had a very she had a very minor track record as far as any type of charges or anything like that against her. Ashley never had a felony. She was never involved in any kind of violent behavior, breaking and entering, or anything like that whatsoever. And a lot of the rumors, and I know that I don't, it's hard to talk about this case and not talk about the rumors because the rumors are what really drove this case through the mud when it came to Ashley. But a lot of the rumors in this case were that, Ashley knew information about Delphi. Ashley had some kind of a tie to Libby German's biological father, Derek German. That is absolutely false. There was no connection with Ashley and Derek German. There was no case where Derek German ever testified against Ashley and cost Ashley the custody of her son. That is not true. That rumor needs to die and needs to be left alone. And I'm hoping that today is the last day that I have to address it. But there's no connection there whatsoever. So if you do the timeline with Ashley moving to Florida in 2016, Ashley was still living in Florida in February of 2017. She had came home at Christmas time and then went back to Florida. So when the Delphi incident happened with the girls on the bridge, Ashley lived in Florida. But later on today, we are going to talk about how that case influenced Ashley's case. And we're going to go into depth with that just a little bit to give the new viewers and the current viewers the understanding of where we're coming from as supporters of Ashley and laying it all out there for you guys to understand how the two cases are not connected when it comes to Ashley. I'm not speaking about Garrett. I'm speaking about Ashley. And everyone needs to understand that there is a very bold, thick line dividing Ashley's situation and Garrett's situation when it comes to Delphi. I'm not saying that Garrett is involved in Delphi. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is emphatically is that Ashley is not. So next up, we're going to move into January. Ashley came back from Florida. Garrett was clean. He was just getting out of a work release program. Ashley came home clean. And of course, in most volatile relationships, everybody thinks that they can come back together. It's going to be a new page. We're going to turn a new leaf. And, Ashley's made it very clear that when Garrett was not on drugs and when Garrett wasn't doing harmful things to himself, he was a great person. And, and I'm sure that's true in a lot of cases with a lot of violent abusers that, when they're not under the influence or, they're, turning over a new leaf, of course they're great. And unfortunately for Ashley, and she completely admits this, she fell for it. She really thought that Garrett had turned over a new leaf. They were going to start a new life and everything was going to be headed down a better track. Well, it didn't take long for that to not be the truth. Garrett started stepping out of the house. He started stealing from her. He started returning to doing drugs. He started bringing people around the house that were not the best of the best. And she kind of started to fall back into the same rut. She's made several different admissions that it became easier for her to follow suit, start going back into doing drugs, than to argue with him because that required her taking a beating. There were numerous occasions where he had physically abused her, not just in private, but in front of people, that he intimidated people that, were afraid to step in. And her family had stepped in on multiple occasions to the point to where he was no longer welcome around any of their properties, any of their homes. And he ended up not even being welcome at his own family's homes, which then sent him living in someone's backyard in a tent. And um, he took a downward spiral. And I know that a lot of you who went out there and listened to Open Secrets, Garrett, like always, spins the story in his favor. Like, he was the good guy. He was trying to help someone, and Ashley was the one in need, not him. That is not the truth. But by October of 2018, Ashley was sporting a busted lip and 2 black eyes, and that could have been seen on Facebook. For anybody who followed this case, I'm sure you remember those pictures of her. It wasn't she couldn't even hide it. They were so prevalent, but Garrett was back to his old ways, hitting, calling her names, showing up at her work, if she was 5, he's a typical abuser, 5 minutes late from work. Where have you been? I know you've been out doing this. Accusing her of being with other people. So Rhonda wants everyone to know that those of you watching on the Facebook Live, your comments don't show up in the YouTube chat. So she'll do her best to highlight them on the screen so YouTube chatters we can see your comments.
That's
Yeah, if
why
you're
I
watching,
said hi, Tim.
yeah, hi Tim. So leading us into January, which is the next month in line here. January became a turning point for Ashley, and the start of what you can say was the downward spiral in this case, leading into what transpired in March. But if you can see the calendar, in January, at the very beginning of January, around the very first week of January, we learned that Garrett and Ashley were over at Russell Stout's house. Russell Stout lived at the corner of 600 and Hodges Drive. Directly behind him was Jason Palladino. Jason Palladino is going to be a key player in this case, so remember that name. I'm not going to go into detail about him just as yet, but just remember the name. But the Palladino property becomes a significant topic of discussion going forward. But Ashley and Garrett were at Russell Stout's house. And at that time, I'm not going to use last names, but a guy by the name of Caleb comes over to Russell's, and his date was Nicole Bowen. They arrived together. And what's significant about that is the fact that Caleb has a child with Ashley's younger sister. So it's all very closely knit here. Well, what Ashley did not know, and I don't think that Caleb knew at that time, was that Garrett and Nicole had actually met a very long time prior in the work release program that Garrett was attending prior to Ashley moving home from Florida. So they knew each other from then. And unbeknownst to anyone that time at the house, they quietly exchanged head nods that they knew who each other were. They, at some point that evening, made a point to secretly have a conversation, and they exchanged numbers. And at that point, the two of them started seeing each other. However, Garrett was also intimately involved with another female at that time. And that female would be Talitha Beckley. Talitha Beckley was living on the property behind Russell Stout with Jason Palladino. So now we have Garrett, who is living with Ashley, controlling Ashley's every move, dictating to her where she can go, what she can do, who she can talk to, accusing her at every turn that she's seeing someone, talking to someone. He's every time she attempts to even speak out of turn, she's hit. And at the same time, he's involved with two other women. By the second week of January, it's really not clear. Ashley doesn't really quite remember, but it was around this time that she caught wind of Garrett being involved with both the other females. So she put Garrett out of her house. She kicked him out. And I need to make it very clear that the house that Ashley was living in belonged to her stepfather and her mother, Kevin and Lori. Kevin and Lori had been together since Ashley was approximately 11 or 12 years old. They had previously lived in the home. And when Ashley moved back from Florida, they had moved, but they still owned the property. So they had been renting the property to Ashley. That's where Garrett was living with Ashley. So Ashley put Garrett out of the home. And that was around the second week of January. Excuse me. So before I go any further, I'm going to mute myself and give some of my guests a little bit of opportunity to speak up and discuss their thoughts on how far we've come so far. And I'm going to review the chat too while we're at it.
Amy, did you want your calendar to be big on your screen, or because I can't see it? The details.
I was trying to pull it up to make it bigger. If you have a better way of doing that, feel free. There we go.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'm not from Indiana. I was not familiar with this case at all. Just gonna pull, there we go. I was not familiar with the case at all, and it was because of Amy's request over on the Foul Play Discord channel that I became involved. And I'm an advocate for those who are wrongfully convicted. And so Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, whether any of those of you who support Ashley Garth or not, support Ashley Garth, whether you believe Stephen and Brendan are guilty or innocent is fine. I don't hold any judgment. I believe they're innocent, and I've been studying their case for I don't even know how many years now. And so anyway, Amy also had been following the case, and then she spoke up one day last year and asked if anybody in Foul Play could help her with this case with Ashley Garth. And I went in with an open mind, and Amy will tell you that I took some time looking through the documents that she shared with me. I just because somebody says they're innocent, I don't just believe that they're innocent, and I don't just take anybody else's word for it that they're innocent. I like to do my own research and investigation into that. And so Amy had provided, lots of documents. I started talking to her privately. And the more I have researched and investigated this case, And I'm not new at it. I'm not new to this. So it's not like I'm just, somebody who's just done the Stephen and Brendan thing and then moved on to this one. I've done lots. And I cover a wrongful conviction on my own channel. And so I took my time and I told Amy that at the beginning, I'm just going to come to my own conclusions. And so it didn't take very long after I started reading through some of the documents and the way that interrogations were handled. Listening to Garrett Kurt's police interrogations was a freaking joke. And it was disgusting to me. And then I started reading more documents that she was able to get through FOIA. And I just said, oh, this girl's innocent. This girl's innocent. There's just no doubt about it. And I mean, no disrespect to the victim's family and friends whatsoever. Nicole Bowen is a victim, and she deserves justice. And I'm really sorry, but I just don't believe that Ashley being convicted and being put in prison is a part of that justice. And that is no disrespect to Nicole Bowen's family and friends at all. I think it's two separate things. And as much as Nicole and her family and friends are victims of Garrett Kurtz, after everything I've read and am still continuing to read as more comes in, I believe that the other side of this is that Ashley Garth is also a victim of Garrett Kurtz. And I believe, I am completely convinced that Ashley's innocent, and I will stick with Amy as much as I can. I mean, I try to help out in foul play. And like I said, I have my own channel, so I'm doing a lot of work. Fortunately, I'm retired, and so I don't have a job that I have to get up and go to, but it's a lot of work reading through different case files and documents, and I'm not an attorney, but I've learned a lot. I do have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. That doesn't make me a lawyer, obviously, but I've learned a lot and I've researched a lot, and I know just a very few things. And I can tell you without any doubt in my mind that I believe Ashley's innocent. I want all of you, I believe that you do, but I want all of you to do your own research into Ashley's case. You don't have to believe me or Amy or anybody else on the panel or anybody else anywhere. Do your own research, come to your own conclusion. I'm just saying that's how I came to mine. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
So I'm actually, I didn't come into this with an open mind. And in fact, I'm not even sure how I found the Case by Case channel. But when I initially started watching everything, I kind of honestly thought Amy was a little bit crazy, and I spent a lot of time rolling my eyes and all of that. But then once I actually started listening and I checked myself just a little bit, because I realized how much the media had biased my opinion and my beliefs. And it didn't take long. Maybe within the first, I don't know, full interrogation of Garrett, and then just listening to Talitha, I think it was Talitha's interrogation, just a little bit into that, I was like, yeah, okay, I was wrong. And yeah, I really feel like the media definitely had a huge hand in making sure that Ashley was guilty unless proven innocent. And it's just, that's not how our justice system is supposed to work. And it's very clear from seeing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that, Ashley's attorney just did not fight for her at all. And had she raised certain questions or, objected to certain lines of questioning, I believe Ashley's factually innocent. But based on violations of, due process and all of that, like I think she's constitutionally innocent too, even though she's been convicted. I think that we'll see that overturned.
Thanks, Steve. And to reiterate a little bit before I go any further, as far as like the media goes, I think that everybody who circulates through the YouTube creators and all the different channels, especially with the Delphi coverage, but I'm hoping to reach outside of Indiana. I want to reach other states, other people who are randomly surfing the internet, who come across my channel, who might stop and listen and go, "Oh, this is interesting," and latch on to the case. But when we're talking about media, you guys, in retrospect, you have to stop and remember that, and we're going to get there within this live about the Delphi coverage. And I know that there's a couple of people out there who continuously want to say, "Well, it's not connected. It's not connected." Well, that's not what you were saying when Garrett Kurtz was first arrested. That is not what you were saying when there are thousands and thousands and thousands of views on Open Secrets, when Open Secrets was interviewing Garrett Kurtz in regards to Delphi and throwing Ashley Garth under the bus every chance he got. No one was screaming that then. And the problem is that the people watching those channels and following the Delphi case, guess what? They were potentially part of the jury pool in Ashley's trial. They were all mostly Indiana people. That's no one's fault, but it is what it is. But to deny that is not a reasonable that's not a reasonable accusation to state that Ashley's case had nothing to do with Delphi. We know that now. But back then, when her case was surfacing and being thrown into the limelight in regards to her ex-boyfriend being Garrett Kurtz, had connections to Delphi, which he did. He had actually worked on Ron Logan's farm, which he did. He had thrown out multiple different names and multiple different accusations about the Delphi case. And you guys can see it firsthand in his interrogation videos. He brought that on himself. But in doing so, he pulled Ashley into that entire mess, and her whole entire character was destroyed in the media before she ever even went to trial. To deny that is ridiculous. So for those of you who are out there making those kinds of statements, you sound silly. You really do. Especially when some of you were right along with the rest of them, hopping on live streams or presenting your own um, YouTube creator nonsense about Ashley Garth and Delphi and Garrett and all of that. You guys played a significant part in that. And I'm not blaming you, because that is exactly how that's exactly how it was all portrayed, not just by YouTube, but also by the news outlets, also by the detectives in this case, who literally, for a prime example, when this all happened, Detective Rowe leaked to the press that Ashley called Nicole Bowen a rival. That is not what Ashley said. Those words came out of Detective Rowe's mouth. During her interrogation, he threw out to Ashley, "So what? Nicole was like, what, a rival?" But yet he conveyed that to the news media as if it was something Ashley had said. That's not what she said. Everybody played their part. and throwing Ashley under the bus. And if you don't like hearing me argue that, and you don't like hearing me defend her in those regards, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep on doing that because it wasn't right and it wasn't fair. And if I feel like some people are more worried about being proven wrong that Ashley's innocent than you're worried about the right person being charged with what happened to Nicole. And I'm telling you, it wasn't Ashley. We've been, and we're going to get, so for those of you who are new, those of you who are watching the replay, I'm going to try really hard not to get on a tangent and go off into left field. I think by the time that we're done today, you guys will understand how easy that is to do. So let's get back on topic, and we're going to go back to January, where Ashley has put Garrett out of the house in January, thinking, just remember that Ashley was able to do this once before. She up and moved to Florida. She left Garrett. She left the drug world behind. She got her act together. Her grandma was taking care of her son. Regardless of Ashley's trials and tribulations with drugs, Ashley has always been a good mother. That's not coming from me. That's coming from her immediate family, her grandmother especially, and her father. Ashley has always been a good mother. She's always gone to work. She has always kept her priorities in line. So breaking up with Garrett in January wasn't her biggest obstacle was Garrett himself, getting him out of her life safely. And I'm sure that you all have heard that when you are in a domestic violence situation, leaving is the hardest part. And going into this, when I first started communicating with Ashley, I had no idea at that time how detrimental and volatile her situation was during this time when it came to Garrett. I guess the easiest way to put it into perspective right now, for those of you who followed the case and really wasn't quite aware of how substantial the abuse was, I want you to stop and think for one moment where we are today and what Garrett has proven he is capable of. 2 murders, not by gunshot, not by a weapon, but by his own hands. That is up close, personal, and a very, I can't even think of the word. The anger, the aggressiveness that it takes for someone to strangle someone with their bare hands. Think about that. And then think about the abuse that Ashley was going through, knowing what he's capable of. That kind of helps it like hit home a little bit. Let me see. So,
Amy,
yes.
sorry, can I just say, I wanted to welcome Donna Barnes. I'll put her comment up again. She said, I have never heard of this case until right now. So this is great. Obviously, your channel, your content is reaching others who aren't aware at all of the case. And so this is proof that you are making a difference. You are reaching other people.
And thanks, Rhonda, and welcome, Donna. Yeah, I couldn't see the chat because I had my my screen on full screen. So welcome, and yes, I'm really happy that we are reaching new people, and that was the purpose of doing this live today, is because I did have people reaching out saying, "Hey, I found your channel and I don't really know where to start." So this right here hopefully will be a great place for me to direct people to go to learn about Ashley's case in its entirety before going into all of the dark crevices that goes with this case. So, what I was saying about Garrett and his violence is, I personally, it took me a while to understand the the severity of what Ashley was dealing with at this time in January. Um, but when she kicked Garrett out, he didn't take that lightly, and you have to understand that when you're dealing with someone such as him, um, Ashley was his livelihood. She had a vehicle, she had a job, she kept a roof over his head, and without Ashley, Garrett really had nothing. He had burnt all of the bridges at home with his family. His family was not allowing him home. He was stealing from them as well. And his drug addiction had become well beyond something that they were willing to deal with. And so he started, making a lot of threats. He was threatening Ashley's family during this time in January of 2019. He was showing up at her job. He was throwing rocks at her window. He had slashed the tires on her vehicle, and it had gotten to the point to where she wasn't even staying at her own home in fear of what he might show up and do. So she was working at that time in another county. She was working as a CNA. I believe she was working at a nursing home, and she was pulling 16-hour shifts on the weekends. And she had came home. This was January 21st. She had a friend bring her home. She was going to shower, get changed, go to her mother's, drop off her rent money to her mother because she was paying rent to her parents, and continue on with not staying at the house until everything kind of quieted down. That particular day, she walked into her house. The friend that had dropped her off was going back into town. He was going to come back and pick her up, giving her enough time to get showered and get her clothes. Lo and behold, Garrett had broken in, was hiding in the closet, and jumped out and attacked her. He duct taped her hands behind her back. He duct taped her feet. He hog tied her, put a sock in her mouth, then duct taped the sock into her mouth. He had the bathtub lined with plastic. He had a saw as if he had intended to dismember her. And he beat on her. He kicked on her. And he had her there throughout a course of 2 hours, strangling her unconscious, reviving her only to do it again. He had the stereo turned up so loud that any sounds that she was making couldn't be heard outside of the home. And when the friend returned, um, he pulled into the driveway, was honking the horn, wasn't getting a response. Got out, heard the stereo, knew there was a problem, and he immediately called Ashley's stepfather, who in turn called the Carroll County Police. And both were in pursuit to the property. At this point in time, Garrett realized there was someone out front. He began to collect his shit, and he grabbed Ashley's phone and made a beehive out the door. Ashley got free. Ashley made a beehive out the front door, pulling duct tape off of her, pulling duct tape off of her mouth. She was beat up. She was bloody. And the police came. They filed a report. She pressed charges. She filed for a restraining order and a no contact order. Later, I believe it was on the 22nd, Garrett was arrested and put into the Carroll County Jail. So he was in jail. If you look at the calendar here, he was in jail until January 28th of 2019, where his father posted bond for him to get out of $500 on January 28th. When he got out, he had a no contact order in place, and we are now at the beginning of February. Do we have any questions going forward? I'm going to run back through the chat really quick. Let me see here. I think, okay, say plead the fifth says, I think what upsets me most is that when all of these creators were creating their stories about Ashley, they never once acknowledged the abuse that she'd suffered at the hands of Garrett. And um and that's true. And I think what's important to note here is that um prior to the Nicole Bowen case being brought to light, Ashley was on no one's radar. Ashley was nowhere near in any headlines, or she wasn't living a crazy, reckless life. Despite what has been said about her, none of that is true. It's because of her connection to Garrett and Garrett's connections that inevitably brought her into this forefront. And when you go back to this charge that Garrett acquired on January 21st, um, Nick McClelland, who is now the prosecutor in Carroll County, at that time, he was the one prosecuting this case. And if you go back through the case file on that, there was never even there was never even a hearing where Ashley was even present. That case was strung out for almost a year, this domestic violence case. And instead of Garrett being charged with attempted murder, which he should have been charged in January, he was charged with an F6 of strangulation. And the truth be told, that if he would have been held on attempted murder charges back in January, these other two cases that we're going to talk about where Garrett took someone else's life, those two people would still be alive. That is a fact if he'd have been kept in jail. But now we're going to go into February, where I don't believe I have a calendar pulled up for February. Let me see here. I have a whole bunch of stuff. Let me see here. No, I don't have a February. I didn't have a February calendar uploaded, but in February, there's a couple of things that we're going to note here. In February of 2019, um, Garrett and Nicole, who are still seeing each other now, remind you, Garrett and Ashley have been broken up. He's been kicked out. He has a restraining order. And after the January 21st incident, Ashley had made the decision to move back home with her grandmother, which I believe Garrett knew with her making that decision, the line had definitely been drawn. There's no going back. There's no taking him back, because if Ashley was moving in to her grandmother's home, Garrett was not welcome there at all. So Ashley was giving up her own place and moving back home. Garrett and Nicole were very much active on social media, flaunting their relationship. That's not a bad thing, but they were just making it very public that the two of them were together. They had posted that they were engaged, and Nicole was doing quite a bit of Facebook harassment with Ashley, and Ashley was responding, but Ashley was not the aggressor. And if anyone tries to say that she is, I'm going to ask you to bring forth proof, because that is not true. Ashley was not the aggressor. Ashley had walked away from Garrett for an entire year, just 6 months prior to this. Her doing it again wasn't that far of a stretch for her to make happen. And Garrett knew that. And so I believe that right there, her making the decision to move back home, Garrett knew, okay, he's going to have problems trying to control her and maintaining his relationship with Nicole. Garrett, throughout the month of February, was consistently posting badgering comments to Ashley, basically telling her he was demanding an apology, that her disrespect needed to be as loud, or her apology needed to be as loud as her disrespect was. And that is in regards to the fact that he was accusing her of cheating on him with someone at her job. You know, she wasn't allowed to go to work without being accused of doing something inappropriate. But yet she was expected to pay the bills. She was expected to bring home money to buy groceries and whatnot, only for him to, in the middle of the night, get in her wallet and steal cash and go buy drugs. I mean, it was a never-ending vicious cycle that she was dealing with. That side of the story was never told back when Garrett was doing all of his jailhouse interviews with Open Secrets. And I'm going to do my best to tell Ashley's side of the story because right now she can't. And she should have been able to tell her side of the story back then. But based on the advice of her attorney, which wasn't wrong to sit back and be quiet, but I want everyone to know that there was a motion in Ashley's case filed by the judge telling everyone involved with this case that they were not to speak with each other, not to speak publicly about the case until the trial. And nobody filed a motion, not the state, not the public defender. No one filed a motion with the court asking the court to uphold their own motion to stop the jailhouse interviews. So they proceeded. And only one side of the story was told, and that side of the story wasn't even the truth. So throughout the month of February, Nicole and Garrett are living over at Jason Palladino's property, and along with Talitha Beckley. Talitha Beckley and Jason Palladino at this point in time were engaged in an intimate relationship, and Talitha Beckley has a long history with the Palladino family. I have been able to trace her back to the Palladino property as early as 2014. She was very close with Mark Palladino, which is Jason Palladino's uncle. Excuse me. So now we have the four of them: Nicole, Garrett, Talitha, and Jason living on the Palladino property all throughout the month of February. And Ashley's in the process of packing up her house with the help of her family, and she's moving back to her grandmother's. So on February 28th, her stepfather is at her property, not only helping her get sorted and packed, but because him and his wife, Lori, which is Ashley's mother, used to live on the property, they still had belongings there that they were gathering as well. So Ashley and Kevin are in the house packing up when Garrett comes barging through the back door, not expecting to run into Kevin. Kevin was there. The police were called. Garrett was arrested. However, even with a no contact order and a restraining order in place, Carroll County decided to file charges of invasion of privacy instead of violating the restraining order, even though Ashley was present and in the house. Why? I don't think that we are ever going to get an answer to why. But again, he was let out on bond that same day. His father bailed him out on February 28th of 2019. So the restraining order, the no contact order did absolutely nothing. The month prior, him hog tying her with duct tape, taping her mouth shut, strangling her unconscious, beating her, kicking her, leaving her bruised and bloody. None of that was enough to stop this man from doing what he had been doing to her. That's on February 28th. So just absorb that for a moment and think about a woman who feels that she's pretty much done all that she can do legal wise. What else is left for her to do besides, I don't know, going and buying a gun and taking matters into her own hands, or what? That was the situation that she found herself in on February 28th. Yes, KO. He was no longer able to sponge off her. And and hi, Susanna. Um, I just wanted to say too, there's been a lot of accusations about love triangle, and Ashley was jealous of Nicole. Um, you know, I'm not going to sit here and compare Ashley and Nicole to each other. That's not fair. What I will say on Ashley's behalf is in 2019, Ashley was Garrett's bread and butter, not Nicole. Ashley had a place to stay. Ashley had her own roof over her head. She had her own job. She had her own means of transportation. Okay, so I don't know where the jealousy thing came into. I will say this, that Garrett having his time preoccupied by two other women truly was kind of a relief to Ashley, and it gave her time to get out of her house and move back in with her grandmother. And you can go back through her Facebook posts during that time where she's talking about keeping her circle small, um, walking away from someone that she thought she might be with for the rest of their life, finding her strength, her inner strength to stand, on her own again. Like those were the kind of Facebook messages that she was posting publicly. She wasn't out here, begging Garrett to come back to her, anything like that. In all actuality, Garrett was the one posting all of these brokenhearted messages, tagging Ashley in those on Facebook, and she simply wasn't even responding. She was ignoring him. And that was all public for everyone to see. Fans Rule says the same reason Garrett got a plea instead of life. He started giving prosecutors those amazing conviction rates. He became the prosecutor's MVP. I agree. I agree. So that took us to February 28th. And now we are going to get into March. March is where everything really goes down. So we're going to go back to the timeline of events in March. And it's at the very beginning of March where another individual's name comes into play. And that would be a man by the name of Ray Hanish. His sister, Cher, is in the chat. Ray lived in White County in, I believe it was a small town called Reynolds. He was a registered nurse. And Ray Hanish is someone that Garrett reached out to, we believe, on a social media app, or a singles app, where Garrett reached out and befriended Ray. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know all of the details about the conversations that took place, with Ray and Garrett on that app, but Garrett befriended him. And at some point in time in the early week and a half of March, he was able to befriend him and obviously gain access to his apartment. And there was something that transpired at the apartment that ended up costing Ray his life. So the coroner in this case stated that Ray lost his life on March 13th. And we know on March 14th that Garrett and Nicole, and this presentation that I'm presenting right now, I had done months ago, way back when we touched on this timeline of events for March. Back then, it was up in the air because there was 3 people in the vehicle when they were pulled over in Tippecanoe County. It was Tippecanoe County, but it was actually the Lafayette Police Department that the call was dispatched to. So we knew there were 3 people, and I personally did not know if it was Kyle Stout or Russell Stout. It has been determined, though, emphatically that it was Kyle Stout, the younger brother. Now, remember, going back to January, when Ashley and Garrett were at Russell Stout's home, that is where Garrett and Nicole initially reunited that evening at the very beginning of January after meeting each other months prior in the work release program. So that makes this kind of, it all flows together. And Russell Stout also lived in the house directly in front of the Palladino property, where Garrett and Nicole and Talitha and Jason were staying on the Palladino property. So the three of them get pulled over in Ray's vehicle, and Kyle Stout is let go on foot. He's able to walk away. He's not arrested. And Garrett and Nicole are arrested. They are arrested for methamphetamines, a syringe, a scale, and what do you call it? I guess you call it a bowl. It's paraphernalia. So they're arrested, and this is around 8 p.m. in the evening. And several hours later, they're both released on bond, which is quite interesting because Garrett had pending charges in Carroll County at that time, and Nicole had pending charges, I believe, from another county. And for the both of them to get out on bond without going before a judge is very strange. When I called Lafayette Police Department to get the details, and if you go back and listen to our lives, I actually went over the actual police report from that night. It's about 4 or 5 pages long. Nicole tells the police officers during this encounter that all of the drugs in the car belong to Garrett, even though the drugs were on her person. The drugs were found under her seat. The drugs and the paraphernalia were found on her person, in her jeans, in her purse, and under her seat. However, in the police report, she tells them that all of the drugs belong to Garrett, and it's notated in the police report. Nicole bonds out first with a $500 bond. A couple hours later, Garrett bonds out with a $500 bond. Now, if you pull up on the Indiana My Case Gov website, where you can look up these case summaries, you're going to see this charge from this particular incident on Garrett's case summary from Lafayette in Tippecanoe County. But you will not see it on Nicole's. And when I spoke with Lafayette and asked them why, they explained that, well, apparently the prosecutor did not press charges against Nicole. And what we know based on interviews and based on things that we have discovered behind the scenes in this case is that during this arrest, there is a strong possibility that Nicole had agreed to help the drug task force in Lafayette by doing a controlled buy on the supplier of the drugs, which at that time would have been Jason Palladino. They are not willing to give me any paperwork on that. I do know that there is someone close to this case who has seen that paperwork, and it has been very obvious that Garrett himself saw the paperwork, which is then what turned him against and turned him sour against Nicole, was this incident from this evening. So that was on March 14th. Now, mind you, the day before is when the coroner had determined that they believed Ray had lost his life. But on the 14th, there were no red flags because Ray's body had not been discovered yet. Ray's body was not discovered until Saturday, which was the 17th. And at that time, his car was also reported stolen. His TV was also missing, his wallet, his phone, and his car was found, I believe, that same day because his car was sitting in the impound lot in Lafayette because it had been impounded from this incident. At that point in time, on the 17th, detectives should have been able, I believe they did, connect the dots to Garrett and Nicole because the car being impounded, they would have been able to see who had been driving that vehicle when it was pulled over. So that puts us at the 14th. Here, let me go to the next page. And that top right picture is Kyle Stout. The bottom right picture is Russell. Russell is the house that everybody was at when Garrett and Nicole met and reunited. He lived in front of Palladino's. The map on the left hand side is where the car was pulled over in Lafayette. They were pulled over, I believe, because they made two different turns in the vehicle without using a turn signal. And on the second turn, when they turned without using a turn signal, they also ran over a curb, which then caught the officer's attention to turn on his lights and siren and pull him over. So they were pulled over into a parking lot at an area on 4th Street and in front of a place called the Village Pantry. So let me get this chat thingy off of here. So do we have any questions going forward before I move on to the next slide? Amber, Shadow, D. All right, I'm going to keep going then. Okay, so this next slide, we're going to talk about March 18th. And March 18th, I feel, is the turning point for Garrett and Nicole. And for those of you who are new following the case, and those of you who are listening on the replay and are just now learning, I have an interview on this channel from a gentleman by the name of Jeff. And Jeff, his interview is kind of in two parts. The beginning of his interview talks about this date right here, March 18th, where Garrett takes Nicole out to Jeff's property out in Crawfordsville. He owns a farm. Well, he lives with his father out there on the property. He has horses, and Garrett takes Nicole out there on the 18th. This is corroborated by Facebook posts from Nicole that she's out in the country. She's taking pictures of herself with the cowboy boots on. Jeff is correlating this, that Garrett brought her out there. They went and rode horses. They spent the night. So we know on March 18th that Garrett and Nicole are still on good terms. We know the day before, Ray's body had been discovered. And what's interesting about this is that based on Garrett's interrogation videos, based on Talitha's interrogation videos, something transpired after the 18th that put a major, major wedge between Garrett and Nicole. There was an argument on the Palladino property. At this time, Nicole had just recently gotten a new vehicle, which was a silver Scion, light blue, silverish colored Scion. And we know that Garrett was going around telling people it was his car. The car, however, was registered to Nicole this week, the 19th through the 24th. I have not been able to nail down the date, but something happened to where Nicole was at the Palladino property and her car keys were stolen. They became missing. And it has been said out of Garrett's mouth that he took her keys and he had them in his pocket the whole entire time. What I don't know is why. I don't know why he wanted access to the car. I know that he had been using the car. But I don't know at this particular time why he wanted the keys to her car. But the keys stayed in his pocket for almost 3 to 4 hours. And she was frantically trying to find her car keys. And she got so ticked off about it that she threatened to call the police. And that pissed off Jason Palladino, to where he told her to get off the property. He said that wouldn't be a good idea. Get off the property. And inconspicuously, this is when Garrett takes the keys out of his pocket and he tosses them towards the tire of the front of her car so everyone can go, oh my God, look, there's the keys. And I don't know if that was to make her feel stupid or if it was being, you know, facetious in her face, like, here's your keys, get off the property. Whatever the scenario was, I believe that was the defining moment between her and Garrett. And look at the date. This is going on 3.5 weeks into March. 3.5 weeks into March. The following week is the week that Nicole loses her life. Now, I want everyone to stop and think about January, February, and now the 3.5 weeks into March. Where is Ashley Garth in this story? Is she over at Palladino's, hanging out with Garrett and Nicole and Talitha and Jason, conspiring to end someone's life? Does she have any dog in the fight when it comes to information about Ray Hanish's death? Was she in the vehicle when the vehicle got pulled over in Tippecanoe? No, she wasn't. However, the one thing that happened was that when Garrett left Ashley's house in January and he ran out the back door, he took Ashley's phone. And he took her phone because he was trying to gain access to her phone to see who she had been talking to. So when he left on foot running, he took the phone. Well, guess where he left the phone? He had been using Ashley's phone for the rest of the month of January, or not the rest of the month, but right after he got out of jail on January 28th until March. He had been using Ashley's cell phone. And he left that phone inside Ray Hanish's apartment. So for a very long time, a lot of people assumed that it was Ashley with Garrett at Ray's house, and it was not. But minus that phone being left there, where is Ashley in any of this in relation to Garrett's situation with Nicole or Nicole and Jason Palladino? She's nowhere. There's really no room in this story right now for her. She had moved back home. She had a restraining order. Garrett himself, and I have showed the text messages on live streams from him where he states until he showed up at Ashley's house on March 25th, he hadn't talked to her for weeks. Now, I know that the stuff that comes out of his mouth, you have to decipher between truth and lies. But there are many things that when you read in between the lines, there are some things that he says that are true. And it is just not reasonable. It's not reasonable. Take Garrett out of the equation. If Nicole is living over at Palladino's with Talitha, who by all accounts, Talitha calls Nicole her friend, why would Ashley be over there? If Nicole is on Facebook flaunting Garrett and her relationship, challenging Ashley to a fight, all of these things, why would Ashley, number one, even be welcome over at the Palladino's? What would she be doing over there? So you have to keep that in the back of your mind going forward in all of this. There is no room for her over there. She wasn't there. There was no conspiracy on Ashley's part. And until the police show up at her door on the weekend of the 23rd and the 24th, she had no idea who Ray was. And even when they left her house on that day, she really didn't know who he was. So that brings us to the weekend of Saturday the 23rd and the 24th. During this weekend, the Indiana State Police show up at Nicole's mother and grandmother's house looking for Nicole. And then they also show up at Ashley's dad's house looking for Garrett. And they did not make contact with Nicole. And of course, Garrett wasn't there at Ashley's dad's house. They tell her that she needs to get a hold of Garrett. They're looking for him in regards to his involvement with a man that they believe that he was intimately involved with by the name of Ray Hanish. At that point in time, well, let me stop right there. Prior to this, Ashley had made it kind of known to her family that she had suspicions that Garrett was probably bisexual. There were things that she had caught him doing or things that she had discovered. And the fact that he was so secretive about his life. She said that, a lot of the times when he was leaving, when he would leave the house and go places, he wouldn't take her with him. When he was out doing things with all of these shady people, a lot of the times Ashley wasn't with him. There were things that she was discovering on her own that made her suspicious, and she had told her family about it. So when the police showed up at her house that weekend, she was like, I've been saying this. Okay. So she starts reaching out, trying to see if she can get a hold of him. She still does not have a phone because he took her phone back in January. She is having to sign on using her son's PlayStation to sign on Messenger to send messages. She still hadn't bought a new phone. So she's messaging him basically saying, hey, what now? The police are here looking for you. Da 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 da. So okay, Rhonda, you're fine. Okay, so that takes us to the weekend of this is what I was talking about, the week of March 20th through the 24th. About the car keys, Jason Palladino ordering her off the property, and then the police showing up at Nicole's family's home, the police showing up at Ashley's. So in chat, does anybody have any questions so far? Am I am I am I telling the story well enough for you guys to follow along? I don't want anyone to feel like they're lost. I just want to make sure that we're all up to speed so far. And anybody on panel, make sure you unmute yourself. Jennifer.
I think you're doing a great job, Amy.
Okay, I'm trying to stay on course without going off on a tangent. Thank you, Fans Rule. Okay, so now we are now on Monday the 25th. This is March 25th, 2019. Ashley is at home. She's minding her own business. And lo and behold, Garrett shows up. And he shows up because several things. He's pissed off that Ashley has called him out about being involved in a relationship with a gay male, number one. Ashley had also made several public posts on Facebook about Garrett and his sexuality. I know Ashley is not, it is what it is. For any female in a relationship with an abusive male, especially someone whose ego is as big as Garrett's, to learn something like that, you're going to be going, dude, are you effing kidding me? I want everyone to know who you really are. Like, you come across as this brute of a man. And here you are behind closed doors. She was angry, and I don't blame her. So she did try to make a mockery out of him publicly. And she also, at that same time, told him, everything that you left at my house back in January is now sitting in my grandmother's garage. If you want it, you need to come and get it, or it's going to be sat out for the trash by Friday. So stop and think about this for a minute. He's getting these messages from Ashley, someone that he has kind of lost control of controlling. He's also dealing with the fact that he realizes that he's being sought out by the Indiana State Police for the death of Ray Hanish. He knows that he was pulled over in Ray's car. So he knows there's a connection. Then you have Nicole, who was pulled over in the vehicle with him, who immediately threw up her hands and said, all these drugs belong to him. And on top of all of that, there's the fact that it is it's pretty much well known that Nicole was at Ray's with Garrett. What Nicole knew, what she witnessed, what information she had, we don't know. Only Garrett knows. But when you stop and you stack all of this up on Garrett's shoulders, it leaves for somebody who I feel at that point in time has now become desperate. The world is about to crash down on him. And him being somebody who does not like to take responsibility, who likes to bring everybody under his umbrella of chaos, is doing just that. Jennifer says, this is an observation I make for everyone, including law enforcement, including in this situation. I don't think anyone took the severity of Garrett seriously. I don't believe they did either, because he talks. His talk doesn't match his behavior to a degree. But to think about what we know he's been capable of and what he's done with his own bare hands, it's scary. So now we have Garrett showing up at Ashley's house on March 25th. And she confronts him. They get into an argument. I'm not going to go into all of the details of the where, the who, the what. But Ashley leaves the property to get away from him. And he follows and he attacks her. And he attacks her severely enough to where he puts her in the hospital, in the White County Hospital. And right here on the screen, this is late night, March 25th on a Monday. He takes Ashley to the White County University Hospital, and he tells them that she was in an ATV accident. Now, hindsight's 2020. Ashley being fully aware of what he's capable of after the strangulation, after being strangled unconscious once, now more than likely twice, the police not intervening, the restraining order not being worth the paper it's written on. She's now sitting in a hospital with this man, and she said she doesn't know why she didn't speak up and say, he's an effing liar. He put me here. I wasn't in an ATV accident. But she had been unconscious, and he admitted that to the hospital, and it states right there that he performed chest compressions on her before taking her into the hospital. This documentation I was able to get with simply having power of attorney of Ashley, and this documentation was the fact that this documentation existed was made available to Ashley's public defender However, these records were not collected by her and it wasn't presented at trial. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But I was able to get them. And this is just a brief snippet right here of the front portion of the medical records. The medical records were actually 32 pages long. And she had some bruising on the face. She had some bruising on the neck. She had a chest bruise and ultimately a concussion. So it wasn't like she was beaten to a pummel. It wasn't that type of a beating. But it was enough for her to go to the emergency room. And the fact that she was there on the 25th, 3 days before Nicole lost her life, speaks volumes. So let me go to the chat really quick. Plead the Fifth says it's easier to stay with them and have them by your side so you know what's coming than to try and leave them and not know when they'll show up and kill you. Exactly. And Jennifer says, I think he was planning on both of them that night he took out Nicole. Ashley seems to believe so. Ashley really truly believes that her instinct was telling her this, that night when he took Nicole's life, that she was supposed to be taken care of that night too. Excuse me. I don't know if it became too strenuous on him that night to follow through. I don't know. Plead the Fifth says, and that's the honest to Christ truth about leaving versus staying and being afraid. Shadow says, then plans changed due to Nicole showing up where he was at that day. So instead, he followed through with Nicole. Possibly. Yeah. Fans Rules says he had intentions of doing so. Shadow says, I didn't realize Jennifer said that too. Yeah, a lot of people are agreeing. A lot of people are agreeing. So we are now leaving the hospital on March 25th/26th. And what Garrett has her do is he has her start calling people that she knows for a ride. I don't know why Garrett didn't seem to think he could get a ride. Why Jennifer says, why do you think he didn't follow through with Ashley on the 25th? I can tell you why he didn't follow through with Ashley on the 25th, because there were witnesses. Nate Simons, when Ashley left her dad's she was leaving because Garrett was there being aggressive. And her dad wasn't home from work. She was there by herself. So she was trying to go somewhere where there were people, and she did. And she went to Nate Simons' house. And I have not been able to get a hold of Nate Simons. I have not been able to reach him through any kind of Facebook messages or anything like that. But it was at Nate Simons' house that Garrett tore into Ashley physically. And instead of Nate and the other guy who was there who witnessed it, instead of intervening, they left the room. But I believe that's why Garrett stopped. And Beckley got off with assisting a criminal. And she got more time for being an habitual offender. And we're gonna get into her stuff too today. But anyway, Garrett wanted Ashley to make some phone calls and get a ride. So she did. She finally got a hold of a guy named Josh. And Josh thought that he was picking Ashley up alone at the hospital. So as he's approaching the hospital, he realizes that Ashley and a guy are actually walking down the street. Garrett didn't even want to stay at the hospital. He had Ashley start to walk. Josh knew of Garrett. He had never met him, but he knew of him being an ex-boyfriend, there being a restraining order, and the things that Garrett had done to Ashley in the past. He never thought when he pulled up to pick up Ashley that the guy that was with her would have been Garrett, but lo and behold, it was. He picks them up. They get in the car. He's asking Ashley, what the hell, what happened? He said she looks, scuffed and bruised. And this dude in the back seat keeps leaning forward and eventually pulls out a knife in I guess, I don't know. I don't want to say, I don't want to use the word threatening, but I guess that's how Josh took it. Josh's interview is on the channel. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You can go and you can listen to it. It's under its own little. I believe it's under interviews. So you can go listen to Josh's interview along with Jeff's interviews. They both tell their own versions of events, so I'm not going to replay it here. But Josh basically explains in there what happened in the car ride, how Garrett didn't have a place for them to go. He wanted Josh to drop them off on the street. Josh wasn't having it. So Josh stopped and got Ashley a hotel room because he didn't want her on the street that night. And that's where he left them. He gave the hotel manager his information and that if anything went wrong that night, for them to call the police and then to call him. So from there, they're at the hotel, and then Garrett takes them to Jasmine Parker's trailer. So really quick, I'm going to pop in here for you guys to watch a little bit of the video that I shot when I went to Indiana of Jasmine's trailer. This is where Garrett took Ashley. Ashley had never been there before, had never met Jasmine before, and had never met Chris Mathis before. Garrett told Ashley his friend Chris Mathis lived at this property and that he was going to go there. He was going to stop by there and get a tattoo. And then he was going to see to it that Ashley got home. Now, just remember that they are well over an hour away from Delphi. So this is not a place that Ashley's ever been before. If you go back and you look at the calendar that I put up in the very beginning, Newton County is clear up to the left of the state, up there where the X is. Carroll County is down here where Delphi is. So now he's got her all the way up here in Newton County, out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And this is what the trailer looked like just this past November when I was there, and the surrounding area. As you guys can see, there is literally nothing out there. But that is the trailer, and it's all cornfield. So a lot of people have said, well, I would have done this or I would have done that. Well, I'm going to say this in Ashley's defense, okay? When you're dealing with someone like Garrett, especially somebody who's on again, off again drugs, the abuse was nothing new. She didn't know that Ray Hanish was a murder victim of Garrett's. She only knew that the police was looking for him. And at that time, I think, if I remember correctly, what she had conveyed to me was that she was under the impression that he had just stolen Ray's car, not that Ray had lost his life. So when Garrett took her here, there wasn't a cause of, she doesn't have a crystal ball to know what was to come within the next 24 hours. So for someone to say, well, I would have climbed out the window and ran for help, or there was no cause for that. You have to be realistic here. He takes her out to this place where when they get there, Chris Mathis is there. Jasmine is there. She meets them both. She's sitting on the couch. There's not a huge cause for concern other than her personal annoyance of having to sit there and grit her teeth and be mad that he's got her sitting somewhere that she didn't want to be. The afternoon turned into late evening. Garrett's getting high. She's got a pounding headache. She's sitting on the couch. She dozes off. Garrett and Chris are continuously rummaging through the trailer, looking for pieces and parts to this damn tattoo gun that Chris is supposed to be using to give Garrett a tattoo. The next thing she knows, she wakes up and it's morning. She's still on the couch. She wakes up to Chris Mathis is gone. Where he went, she doesn't know. All she knows is that when she wakes up, he's not there. Garrett and Jasmine are in the back bedroom, and a guy named Mikey Hiddle is there. Ashley gets up. She goes into the bedroom and she's, standing there like, what the hell? What's going on? Jasmine introduces her to Mikey as his friend. Garrett makes it very clear, hey, we're running to Delphi. I'm going to go get some more meth. Immediately, Ashley's like, okay, so you're taking me home then. An argument happens. Garrett takes her. Now, this is the scenario that I've been told. Garrett walks Ashley out into the living room, kind of away from Mikey and Jasmine, like, shut your mouth. I'm just going to run with him out there. I'll be back. And she's like, no, because she knows where he's going. He's going to Palladino's. That's where he gets his drugs from. She knows that that's close to her grandma's house in Delphi. Why can't I ride with you? For whatever reason, he doesn't want her to go. Mikey comes out. He witnesses the argument. I've played pieces and parts of Mikey's interview. He agrees that Garrett and Ashley were arguing. His words to me were verbatim. She was not happy with the situation that she was in. He didn't know why. He didn't know what was going on, but she wasn't happy. So Mikey goes on out to the car. Garrett tells Ashley, well, okay, look, we're going to run up here to the gas station. We're going to get gas or whatever. We'll swing back by and get you, and then we'll drop you off at home. Well, guess what? They didn't leave and go to the gas station and come back. They left and didn't return, leaving Ashley there at Jasmine's by herself with Jasmine, who she doesn't know, the entire day and the entire evening. She has no phone. At this point, you can question, okay, Ashley, why would you sit there for 12 hours? I'm going to tell you why. Jasmine wouldn't let her use the phone. Jasmine kept making excuses why she couldn't use the phone. She really didn't know where she was. She knew that she was in Kentland, but where in Kentland, she had no idea. Looking out the windows, it was pretty desolate. So she's sitting there all those hours on the couch. Jasmine's cleaning. She gets up. She offers to help. They're both in this awkward situation of they don't really know each other, but hey, we're girls. Let's make the best of it. You know how females are. Can I help you do anything? She's feeling, she said at some points, she's feeling kind of stupid that Garrett took her there, left her there without any explanation as to what the hell she was supposed to be doing there. Jasmine kept telling her that she was in communication with Mikey, and Mikey was saying they were on their way back. They were on their way back. So that's where we are on Thursday morning, March 28th. Is everybody following so far? Does anybody have any questions? Anyone want to make any comments in regards to the situation that Ashley's in?
Well, just
I
that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, of course, everyone can sit around and say what they would have done or what she should have done, but nobody really knows until they're in that situation. And not only that, but it sounds like this was nothing new for Garrett. I mean, he's on drugs, he's unreliable. Obviously, he doesn't have a job, so it's not like, he's got any track record of being responsible. He shows up when he wants, he leaves when he wants. There's no reason for her to freak out and just like take off running in the middle of nowhere, like, oh, I have a bad feeling and I'm upset, so I'm just gonna just throw a fit and take off running in the middle of nowhere when I have no idea where I'm at. No, she was sitting there waiting because, what other option did she have? And didn't I hear that she had actually was like trying to arrange with her grandma possibly to come and get her? But
that was after she was able to get away.
Okay, but she didn't want to bother her
yeah.
grandma because her grandma, yeah.
Well, she had said that Jasmine gave her every excuse under the sun not to be able to use the phone. I know there was some talk of the fishy Wi-Fi at the trailer. I think Jasmine was actually getting cheat Wi-Fi from a neighbor, and she was giving excuses as to why Ashley couldn't use the phone. And after Ashley became so very persistent to use the phone, and I have my own take on this, and I'll kind of give you guys my personal opinion, which is my personal opinion of the whole case scenario of my own when I'm finished here. But when Ashley became persistent about, can I at least freaking use Facebook Messenger? Jasmine would go so far as to literally open up Facebook Messenger before she would even give Ashley the phone, as if she did not want Ashley having access to anything else on her phone. And I believe there's a reason for that. And I believe it was because of communication that Jasmine had been getting throughout that day from Garrett. That's just my opinion. But it wasn't until later in the evening, that is when Ashley knew where Garrett was going, which was the Palladino property. Garrett did not have a working phone with him. He had a phone, but it wasn't a working phone. He only had access when it was connected to Wi-Fi. So the only person at that property that she knew that she could possibly get a hold of was Talitha Beckley. And she started reaching out to Talitha Beckley on Facebook Messenger late that evening, asking Talitha if she had seen Garrett or knew where Garrett was. She had stated, Garrett left me. Do you know where I'm at? I'm out here in Kentland. And Talitha even makes it apparent in her interrogation video that Ashley's calling me. I don't know, she makes it this big deal, like, I don't know why. And she acts like she doesn't know where she's at. And she's saying Garrett had left her there for like 10 hours. And Talitha says that. So here we are, one more piece of the puzzle, the piece of Ashley's story that lines up with everything that she has said since day one. These are not made up facts. This is not me being gullible, like someone likes to call me, that I'm gullible. I'm not taking someone's word for this and believing it. This has all been vetted, and you don't have to take my word for it. These are documented statements. These are in an interrogation video that you can watch and listen to. These are things that were stated at trial. This is not me being gullible, period.
Yeah, and it's easy
Hey,
for us
Amy.
like to
Yeah.
look through like the lens of knowing what goes on to happen later that evening. It's easy looking through that lens for us to say, well, she should have left. Who would wait that long, et cetera, et cetera. But she had no way of knowing that anything like this was going to happen. And
Well,
I don't know.
and
To
she was in her
judge,
mind frame because she just got out of the hospital and she was already still like out of it from him beating her.
Yeah,
right? That too, definitely.
and I think too, it's part of her nature. I mean, I believe that she had just become submissive to him, and it was, I'm just gonna, he'll show back up, I think. But I think when she started reaching out to Talitha, that was out of desperation because she was getting to the point where she was starting to be concerned. And I will be interviewing Ashley's family on here, her dad, her grandmother, and her grandmother will tell you they were concerned about where they didn't know where she was. They had not heard from her, and they were very concerned. And it was also a volatile situation there as well because when you're in a situation like Ashley was in, where you're not getting any kind of reinforcement from, he has gone so far as to beat you in public. He has been arrested not once, but multiple times for putting his hands on you, violating a restraining order. You're pretty much left with a sense of helplessness that she's kind of at his mercy. So,
You,
and she had just gotten out of the
you,
hospital.
you become
Go ahead, Shadow.
brainwashed when you're in a domestic abuse.
Yeah, and I think to a certain degree,
Like
she kind
brain,
of
it happened.
it does.
And I'm saying from experience, like I felt like I was itty bitty and that nothing mattered, or my opinion or my thoughts did not matter anymore. And you start feeling like she probably did have hope that he was coming back because that's how her brain became after dealing with it for so long, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I think it does. Rhonda, did you want to say something?
And when did Garrett
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shadow.
when did Garrett tell Jasmine to take care of whatever it was that she needed to take care of? Was that through a text message or was that like over the phone?
That comes later. That is in the audio recording with Mikey Hiddle when Mikey
Oh,
Hiddle
okay.
sets him up.
Because
Rhonda,
I
did
was
you
going
want
to
to say
say
something?
that could be another reason why she prevented her.
Yeah. I don't. Rhonda? Did you want to say something?
Well, I was, I mean, I guess great minds or smart minds or I don't know, minds think alike, but I was going to say exactly what Dee and Shadow said regarding Ashley's state of mind, um, during that time. Um, you know, I I didn't have personal physical experience with domestic violence, but my younger sister still does, for 30 years now or more. Um, she just keeps getting into one after the other, because she's so damaged. But you don't, there's a saying out there: if you know, you know. Well, I just kind of want to take the reverse. If you don't know, you don't know. If you've never been in it or you've never witnessed it, you can't possibly say what you would have done because you don't know. The person that you are, in the moments, in your clarity moments in your life, could very easily change. You might be the strongest, most, you know, stubborn, big mouth, speaking up and saying and all that stuff, on the surface. But until you've been faced with the years of domestic violence, and then when you add drugs on top of it, of course, you don't know what you're going to do because who you are in real life could very possibly and most likely will change if you find yourself in that situation. And then to Shadow's point, when she said, everybody who was making those comments, I completely agree with Shadow. It's so easy just to look through the lens of what already has been and then say, well, if it was me, I blah, blah, blah. And that's one of the first battles, I guess you could say, that we find in Daniel's case is, well, why didn't he, take the fifth? Why did he sign that? And why didn't he get an attorney right away? If he's guilty because he did all that, he's guilty. Um, well, and people, if it were me, there's no way I wouldn't have stood up and screamed and yelled and said I didn't do this. He's guilty. And you just can't say that what you would have done because you don't know if you don't know. And that's all I wanted to say.
Well, just to capitalize on that, I think for those of you who have followed the channel and have heard me talk before, my sister lost her life in a domestic violence relationship back in 2007, leaving 3 little boys without their mother. And we spent probably 6 to 8 years, me and my mother did, attempting to get my sister out of that relationship. And um, he was able, he was able to move my sister clear across the county to a whole nother area, isolating her. He I'll put it to you like this. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but and maybe one day I'll share it on here. When there's a funeral and you put together a memorial video of pictures and whatnot, there throughout my sister's memorial video that was played at her funeral, you can see throughout the whole entire video, there weren't many photos of my sister in that video where she didn't have bruising on her face, from multiple black eyes to bruising on the arms. It was very prevalent, and there was nothing that we could say to get her away from him. And she would make excuses for him. She would alienate us to the point to where, it was such a high intent situation where she would come for the holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we would have, this was back when we were younger and I was a new mother. I had little ones. She had little ones. I don't even think my brother had even started to have kids yet. But the whole family would be together. And Derek, who was my sister's husband, he would literally sit out in the front room by himself in a chair, basically timing my sister like, hey, I want to leave here at such and such time, eat, socialize, and then we're out of here. And he would literally be like, are like my sister's name was Jennifer. And I'm like, Jenny, are you seriously gonna let him do this? Oh wow, that's just how he is. And it was just unbelievable the things that she would tolerate. And it ended up costing her her life. So she died back in 2007. It ripped the entire family apart. It ripped her boys apart. Her oldest son has struggled ever since then. So I know firsthand what a woman in a situation like that will go through or put herself through, and it's nothing that those of us who have not been in that situation could ever fathom. So moving on. So let's see. We just went through the. So Rhonda said. One of the things that pisses me off the most about outsiders looking in, well, she must be like getting beat if she likes staying with him. The most ignorant, uneducated, asinine things people can say. That's true. And clearly, this right here is a prime example of exactly that, Rhonda, what you just said. Because look at what it's done to her trying to get away. And um, this whole, and honestly, this is an extreme case with someone who is, he's beyond domestic violence, obviously. He's a murderer 2 times over. So that's an understatement. Fans Rule says she has to get back to work. I'll jump back in when I can. Thank you all and God bless. Tim Stevens. Thank you. So we just went through getting back on track. I just showed you the video of the trailer. Now I'm going to show you the video of Hodges Drive, and pay close attention because you're going to see in this video, this is the property that people call the compound. That's a whole nother live that we're going to do, but they call this property the compound. And you're going to see briefly this red building in this video. This red building that you're going to see is a new structure that's just been recently built. It's been built in place of where Russell Stout's trailer was. But that red building is the location where Garrett was with Ashley at Russell's house and ran back into Nicole. Just so you guys have reference of how close that was to the Palladino property. But this is the Palladino property. That building right there on the right-hand side, that dark burgundy building is where Russell Stout. That's the Palladino property right there. So you can see the back of that brownish reddish building coming up here. And then again, that is another view of the Palladino property, which is reportedly to have been covered with cameras. And that is where Nicole and Garrett, Talitha and Jason were staying during the month of February and the month of most of March. So the soundtrack on that sounds a little creepy. I'm sorry about that, but I was trying to cover out the GPS lady, and in the file that I was using to create the video, I only had a couple of options that I didn't have to worry about copyright on YouTube. So, but that is where Garrett went that day with Mikey Hiddle. So Mikey Hiddle did an interview on the Criming Shame with Sonny Justice about a year after Ashley's trial, where he explains what transpired in the vehicle with him and Garrett on the way to the Palladino property, where Garrett is basically telling him, his intentions on killing Nicole. And I have spoken to Mikey and I've asked him repeatedly, you know, when Garrett got in the car, when you're leaving Jasmine's and, he's arguing with this female that you've never met, which would be Ashley. When Garrett got in the car, did he ever say to you who Ashley was? And he said no. I said, he didn't say, oh, that's my girlfriend, or, I'm going to go get Nicole and I'm going to bring her back here. So Nicole and Ashley can confront each other. He said no. Um, he said Garrett didn't even mention Ashley at all once in the car. So they drive all the way out to Delphi. They get to the Palladino property, and we have two conflicting stories at this point. We have Mikey Hiddle, who says they get there, they go inside Jason's trailer. He uses the restroom. Garrett goes into another room. He lights a torch tank. He comes out of the bathroom. They come out of the trailer and they go in the trailer in the back. They smoke meth with Talitha. And then the three of them, Garrett, Mikey, and Talitha, decide they're going to leave in Mikey's car. They go out front. They all three get in Mikey's car and they head down the drive. They're heading down Hodges Drive. And lo and behold, Nicole pulls in. Garrett tells Mikey to pull over the car. Garrett gets out, says he's going to ride with Nicole. That's one version of events. The other version is Talitha's version. Talitha claims that Nicole was in the second trailer with her already when Garrett and Mikey showed up, and that Garrett came to the door and she doesn't know why Nicole even let Garrett in, except for the fact that Nicole had been sick because Nicole had been struggling with a heroin addiction, and that Garrett had been supplying Nicole with heroin. And without Garrett, Nicole couldn't get it. So she thinks that's why Nicole let him in. And then the four of them go to leave and get in. Nicole and Talitha get into Mikey's car. Garrett doesn't get in the car immediately. He goes over and talks to Jason, who supposedly had just gotten dropped off. And Garrett's standing out. Thanks, Rhonda. I'll see you later on, okay? And
All right, I'll try and join you tonight.
okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
All
Thank
right,
you,
bye.
everyone.
Mhm. So she then claims that Garrett comes back over to the car and tells Nicole to get out of the car, that they're going to take her car. I'll get into why I feel those two stories are conflicting later. But at the end of the day, the four of them leave. And the way that they leave is that Talitha is in the car with Mikey and Garrett is in the car with Nicole. And they leave under the pretense that Garrett and Nicole are going to follow Mikey and Talitha to Mikey Hiddle's apartment. This whole scenario right here is a confluckery of a mess if you sit and you listen to Talitha's interrogation. At first, Talitha says, oh, well, I thought we were going to Kitland to pick up Garrett's girlfriend. Well, let me stop you right there and think about how asinine that statement is. Talitha knows damn well what the situation is between Nicole and Ashley. They don't like each other. Garrett had been cheating on Ashley with Nicole prior to Ashley kicking Garrett out. And also, let me remind you, unbeknownst to Nicole, Garrett and Talitha had been sleeping together. Okay. So there's a whole big ulterior motive going on here that at the time of Talitha's interrogation, no one knew by watching her interrogation. But Talitha's whole scenario here is chaotic. They're on their way. They're going to go pick up Ashley in Kitland. No, she thought they were going to Marysville. Then they're driving towards Francisville. Then they end up in Francisville. And then Garrett and Nicole show up. Now, in Garrett's interrogation video, you don't have Garrett mentioning a word of any of this to the detectives. Not one time in Garrett's interrogation video, in his first one on April 1st, does he talk about being at Jasmine's, getting a ride from Mikey, driving all the way out to Palladino's, buying drugs or getting drugs, and then going to Mikey Hiddle's apartment for the entire evening. That whole escapade is left completely out of Garrett's scenario. That speaks volumes to me. And it speaks volumes to me also that that whole entire scenario is never once discussed at Ashley's trial. Not only that, but Mikey Hiddle is never called as a witness by the state or by the defense at Ashley's trial. Why? This is someone who spent the entire day with Garrett. This is someone who spent the majority of the evening with Talitha and Nicole and Garrett. 3 of the people who were in the trailer when Nicole lost her life. Why was he never put on the stand? I find that highly suspect. So anyway, we now have Talitha, Mikey, Garrett, and Nicole at Mikey Hiddle's apartment. You have Talitha in her interrogation video telling the detectives that Garrett and Nicole are in the bathroom shooting up heroin. You've got Garrett sitting in his interrogation video telling detectives that he's trying to help Nicole get off heroin, that he's taking her to Jasmine's trailer to talk with her. He's going to sit her on the couch. She's sick. He's trying to help her. But you've got the other woman in his life that he's sleeping with telling detectives that he's at Mikey's shooting her up. So you have to ask yourself, again, in this whole flippant scenario, where's Ashley? You also have Talitha sitting in her interrogation video, plainly telling the detectives that her and Ashley aren't friends. She makes that very clear. She doesn't like her. So now we are getting to the point where Talitha has turned off her phone so Ashley can no longer call her. And Ashley's still sitting there wondering where the hell Garrett is. Talitha made it out like she had no idea what was going on. She thinks Garrett might be on his way to her. Don't worry, he'll be there soon. You know, da 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 da. So now we are left with only Garrett and Talitha's version of events in this car, where Garrett and Talitha and Nicole leave Mikey Hiddle's apartment and they are on their way to Jasmine's house. Now, Talitha claims in this car ride, Garrett and Nicole, not her, just Garrett and Nicole, are smoking a bowl of meth. And it's in this car ride where Garrett, well, let me back up too. Talitha makes it very clear throughout her interrogation that Garrett is utilizing her phone, Talitha's phone, and Nicole's phone, because he doesn't have a working phone. So he's communicating with someone on Talitha's phone, and he's also communicating with someone on Nicole's phone. So just remember that. But during this car ride, Garrett uses one of their phones to call Jasmine. And I'm assuming that he's calling on Facebook Messenger. But however he's calling her, he puts her on speakerphone. And I believe this is to reassure Nicole, because I'm hoping that people who are new, who are following this or listening to this on the replay, that you go back and you listen to all of the different case coverages that we have done on this case, that you will know that during the week before this, Nicole had begun to reach out to her family saying that she was in trouble. And it was during this time that I believe the whole car key incident happened. So on this particular night, I don't know what was transpiring between Garrett and Nicole and what uneasiness Nicole was either displaying or conveying. But I feel like the phone call that Garrett made to Jasmine and put her on speaker was to set Nicole's mind at ease. And according to Talitha, Garrett called Jasmine and let her know, hey, we're about to pull in. Who's there? And Jasmine said, nobody. And I believe that was a setup. I believe that Garrett had contacted Jasmine prior to and had told Jasmine to say that. So upon pulling into the trailer, Garrett also tells Nicole that they've got to be quiet. And of course, he's speaking to Talitha and Nicole. But trust me, Talitha is fully in on this. That's okay, Shadow. You can come back in on your phone if you want. But Talitha's fully in on this whole scenario of what's about to go down. And he tells them that they have to be quiet. And because Jasmine has kids. Well, we know that's not true because Jasmine doesn't have kids. Jasmine lost her kids to the system a long, long time before this. And they know that there's no kids in the trailer. So I'm going to pull up. Let me see here. So for those of you who are watching, let me see if I can make this full screen. These are actual photos of inside of Jasmine's trailer. Let me see if I can remove my here. Oh, it's not going to let me remove myself. Okay, but these are the pictures of inside of the trailer. And what I want to point out to you is this right here. So if you look really close, do you see there's two white arrows up there at the top? The one that says back door. This is the door that everybody was utilizing to come in and out of Jasmine's trailer. Look how close it is next to Jasmine's bedroom door. So Jasmine had Ashley in this bedroom with this door closed. So Garrett, Talitha, and Nicole come in this back door. And Nicole ventures over here to this island. This is where Nicole is standing when Ashley first sees her. Ashley does not know that they are in the trailer until Talitha makes her way down this hallway and opens this bedroom door and goes in. And right then, Ashley is like, what the hell? Because remember, Ashley had been calling her, wanting to know if she had seen Garrett. And she's been getting the runaround. Then Talitha blocks her from calling her on Facebook Messenger. So for Talitha to walk in that door, Ashley's like, what is going on? What are you doing here? Ashley comes out of the bedroom, and lo and behold, there's Nicole and Garrett. And Ashley says immediately, both of them are like, what the F? What the hell is going on? And you also have to remember, Ashley is fully aware of who Talitha is and what her connections are. Excuse me. So now she's being confronted not only with Garrett, who's left her there all flippin' day, she's being confronted with Nicole and Talitha. What do you think is going through Ashley's mind right now? Do you think that Ashley's feeling like the odds are in her favor right now? I don't think so. And Nicole and her exchange words, and then immediately Nicole goes at her. Ashley goes right back. Where the red X is where the fight took place in the trailer, right there on the hardwood floor. So I feel like that was important for me to show there. The bigger picture is here in the trailer where the fight takes place. You know, and even in my mapped out drawing that I did based on Ashley's drawings, I have I have this back door right here, where that bottom X is. See where the red X is on my drawing? To the right of that is the small black X that is supposed to be demonstrating where that back door is. It's really even kind of closer to the bedroom door than what I had it initially on this drawing. It's actually very close together. So for Ashley to say that when the fight broke out and Garrett interrupted the fight and he snatched Nicole up and she was kind of left standing there by that island, Ashley was, and, and seeing what Garrett was doing. And then she took off to the bedroom. Everything that Garrett did to Nicole was right here by this white trash can, right here by the corner of this couch, very viewable to inside the bedroom. And you can see that. Let me see. Let me go back here. Oh, maybe I didn't put it in there. You can kind of see that right here. This right here is the picture. This middle picture up here is where the two couches were. This little glass table with this lamp table right here. This is the couch on the right-hand side up there that Ashley slept on. And there's the glass lamp table to the left of it where the scarf was. And it's further over here past this second couch on the floor that you can see down here in this bottom picture, the bottom corner of it, where all of that took place. So guys, do we have any questions from chat or anything like that before I go any further? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So that leaves us to everything that transpired in the trailer that night. Where you guys know, or you have the ability to go back and listen to the interrogation videos, and all of the different lives that we've done leading up to where we're at to this day. Hey, Toby. And I was supposed to say hi to Toby and everybody at his work. If you guys are all listening, I know he said he was going to air it today at his shop. So that leaves us here to, where everybody was, or they say they were in the trailer. We've covered that extensively. We've gone into the different interrogation videos. I have, despite what somebody else might say as far as me pressing my opinion onto others, I don't believe I'm doing that. I'm presenting you facts. I'm showing you the evidence that I have. I have presented the interrogation videos with commentary from me and my panel throughout the course of weeks. However, I have also made those interrogation videos available independently of any commentary. So people have had the ability to listen to the live streams where we have discussed and gone through the interrogations, or they can choose to listen to them without the commentary. It's up to them. And both have received a large amount of views, comments, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to make that clear that all of those things are out there. And if you are listening on the replay, you can go through the different topics of the channel where you can see interrogations, live channels. Um, hey, under your scars, she says, what did she say? You're doing above and beyond what the courts did. Should be this throughout always to avoid wrongful convictions. Yes. If everybody was as thorough all the time, that would probably prevent a lot of things like this happening. The justice system needs to be reformed. It is not designed for people who are incarcerated to ever be put out or ever get out. And there should be a fast track in certain situations where things can be fast tracked. If there's evidence to prove someone's innocent, it should be able to be fast tracked to get them, on a fast track of getting out. So, but everybody can go through the channel and listen to the interviews that we've done, listen to the lives that we've done on the different timeline of events, and listen at your own will, at your own pace. But I felt this video was a must. It was a must do for people who are new coming in and wanted to catch up. I felt you could get a whole thing in one shit and shebang, so to speak. So now that takes us in. We have Garrett, who has taken Nicole's life, and you've got Jasmine and Talitha and Ashley in the trailer. Garrett leaves with Nicole's body, and he goes and picks up Chris Mathis. Now, if Ashley was involved in planning this, and if she was involved in participating with this, why would he need to leave and go pick up someone to help him with the body? That makes zero sense. Why include another person into this mess? Well, that's because Ashley didn't help. Ashley was completely a wreck at this time. And I think when you go back and listen to Talitha and Jasmine both of their interrogation videos, both of these women are sitting in the hot seat in this police station in front of these detectives. And still, neither one of them say they witnessed Ashley help Garrett do anything. And I believe that Talitha is even asked pointedly and directedly, did Ashley help Garrett? And she said, I don't believe that she did. She says that. You're right. Under your scars until we're in those shoes. Right. I think that's exactly what it takes sometimes for people to see how important it is that when someone's being accused of something like this, due process has due process has to take place. So it's done right the first time. Because when it's not done right the first time and you put an innocent person in prison, I mean, you are ultimately literally holding someone captive against their will when someone's innocently incarcerated in a prison. They are now a hostage. So they need to get it right the first time. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. So Garrett leaves with Chris Mathis, and they go and they're gone for several hours. And it's really only a couple miles away where they take Nicole and leave her in this horrible, desolate place. And they return, and Garrett is barking orders at Ashley. Well, he was barking orders before he left. When you, here, let me pull these up here. These are drawings that Ashley sent of the inside of the trailer. So describing the layout. And this is a little bit reverse. This here is the living room, right dead smack in the center. To the left is that back door, and it says wheelchair ramp. That's in the back, that goes around to that added on addition. And then you have the kitchen, and in between the kitchen and the master bedroom down here at the bottom is a laundry room. Now, up here on the next page, this is she's added more up here at the top where the front two bedrooms are. That is the front of the trailer up there at the top. That's where the cars pull in at the nose of the trailer and park. And this is the bedroom where this arrow is on the left-hand side, um, where she was put in this first bedroom right here. When Garrett left with Nicole's body, this is where Garrett had Talitha and Jasmine put Ashley in the dark. They turned the lights off on her and they told her to stay in there. And both of these two rooms were basically empty. The front bedroom, closer to the front, up there at the top, had a she can't remember if it was a box spring and mattress set or if it was just one or the other in that room, but it was propped up against the wall, leaning up against the wall. These rooms weren't rooms that you could sleep in. They didn't sleep in these rooms like Garrett tried to make it out to detectives. Well, we were sleeping in the front bedroom. He tried to make it out like he had clothes there. That's not true. There was no clothes there. Remember, they left Nate Simon's house and went to the hospital, then to a hotel, and then to here. The only thing that Ashley had with her was a backpack. And I don't care what Mel Roberts says about seeing any still photographs. I guarantee you, whatever you see Ashley have, it wasn't the backpack that belonged to her with the lock pads on it. The woman who rented the trailer from Jasmine Parker after Jasmine went to jail had Ashley's backpack because the backpack was left in the trailer. Jasmine also said it, and so did Garrett. So I'm tired of hearing her BS. Anyway, this front bedroom up here had the bed propped up against the wall. That middle bed, that second bedroom, the wall that adjoined with the family room there, where the couch was, is the room that Garrett had the girls put Ashley in. When Ashley tried to come out of the bedroom while Garrett was gone, she said Jasmine was sitting on the couch, the one that was along the back side of the trailer, the wall where the door to go out the back was, that same couch. And Talitha was sitting on the floor and they were taking apart a sweeper. Why? I don't know, but that's what they were doing. I'm assuming in attempts to make the vacuum work, to run the vacuum. But those are the pictures that Ashley drew. And this was the back of the house where that extension was, which you guys could see in the photos that I drew, or the videos that I took when I was in Indiana. So here, let me remove that. So when Garrett returns with Chris, he's barking orders, and I don't know what the time frame is here. I do know that the neighbor across the street had surveillance video and photos, and apparently there's people who have seen these photos, but Ashley Garth has never, and they were not turned over in discovery. So Stephen Cobb, I don't know if they were cleaning evidence out of the vacuum cleaner or if they were attempting to run the vacuum cleaner to vacuum up maybe anything possibly on the carpet. But that's what they were doing. They were taking apart a vacuum. When Ashley attempted to come out of the bedroom and they yelled at her to go back into the room. So when Garrett got back there, he wanted to go in and take a shower. And he made Ashley go in and sit on the bathroom floor while he took a shower. And she was crying. He was yelling at her to shut the fuck up, stop being a crybaby. He didn't want to hear about it anymore. He was done listening to her blubber, blah, blah, blah. Pretty much Talitha and them had said the same thing to her. And what's interesting is that whatever was transpiring that night in that trailer, I know We've talked about the DNA on the evening lives, but you have to remember that when Nicole and Ashley got into it, you know, Garrett hits Ashley to separate the two females, and then he immediately grabs Nicole. And out of Garrett's own mouth, he claims that it took him, I believe he said 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 minutes to apply the pressure to Nicole's neck. Well, clearly, I have provided you with the photos of his arm and what his arm looked like even 5 days after this incident. Ashley goes hightailing it back in the bedroom, and at some point, he comes back there. And I believe it's at this point where Jasmine describes in her interrogation video that Garrett was exhausted, like extremely exhausted, more so than he would have been if he had ran a marathon. And he comes into the bedroom and he hits Ashley again because she's crying. And Talitha even verifies that. Then he goes back out and he's screaming and he's hollering for, he wants someone to help him. Ashley says she never left the bedroom after she went in it. She stood in there in the middle of the room. Let me pull this up. She said Jasmine was sitting on the bed. She said she never left the room. Here's the picture again of the inside of the trailer. On the far right end is the master bedroom where Jasmine's bed is. You can see the gray box. That is where Jasmine's bed is. This yellow thing that I have along the back side of the trailer is a futon couch. This is where Talitha was. This blue space in front of this couch is where Ashley said she was. Standing and screaming and crying. She went down to her knees several times, rocking herself on the floor, and they were telling her to shut up. Jasmine told her to shut up because it was going to cause the neighbors to hear. Garrett came back into the room and hit her and told her to shut up. And it's at that point that Talitha got up and went out in the front room. And that's all that I'm going to say about that, because that's all going to be covered in Ashley's post-conviction relief filing. But Ashley states she never left the bedroom after that. And but with all of that being said, instead of Jasmine stating in her interrogation video that Ashley helped or did this with Garrett to Nicole, she doesn't say anything like that. In fact, she said, and her exact words were, I even offered that bitch a place to stay to get away from him. Talking about Ashley. So whatever was transpiring in that trailer that night, Jasmine got herself caught up in doing Garrett's bidding, whether it be keeping her mouth shut, attempting to keep Ashley back in the bedroom when Garrett was attempting to secretly sneak Nicole into the trailer. For what? But in all of that, Jasmine still felt that she needed to offer Ashley an escape away from Garrett. Just keep that in mind, that whatever she was witnessing wasn't that Garrett and Ashley were on lovey-dovey terms. So when these still photos that people have seen of Ashley and them walking out to get into Nicole's car, I'm going to tell you Ashley's exact words when I asked her. So I guess people who have seen these photos of you leaving Jasmine's trailer with Garrett and Talitha, getting in Nicole's car, and you say that you were forced to get in the car, I guess because they didn't see Garrett dragging you by your hair out of the trailer to get into Nicole's car. First, she said, well, what was I supposed to do? Run? He told me to get in the fucking car. So I walked out and got in the car. I have just watched him murder someone. I know what he did to me. What was I supposed to do? And I said, well, I want you in your own words, Ashley, to tell me what to tell these people who have seen these photos of you leaving Jasmine's trailer, getting in Nicole's car, why you got in Nicole's car. And her exact words were because getting in that car meant I was one step closer to getting home. That says it all for me. So I'm going to leave that alone. Anyway, so now we've got Talitha and Garrett driving in the car with Ashley in the car, driving to Yelman. I hope I'm saying that right. Yelman, which is where Chris Spencer lives. Now, unless you listened very close to Talitha's interrogation video, you might have missed it. But Talitha states in her interrogation video that Chris Spencer is pretty much like Jason Palladino's stepmother. Well, she's more than that. She's also the mother to one of Curtis Palladino's daughters. Chris Spencer was married to Curtis Palladino, which is Jason's dad, and they had since divorced. Chris Palladino is where Nicole took her title to her Scion. When Garrett and Nicole were arrested in Lafayette, Nicole took her car title to Chris Spencer and turned it over in exchange for $500 to go back and bail Garrett out of jail. So I'm curious as to how Nicole knew Chris Spencer. And if Garrett was in jail, who would have taken Nicole to Chris Spencer's house in Yemen to get $500 in exchange for her title? Would that have been Jason Palladino, or would that have been Talitha? Because Talitha makes it very clear in her interrogation video that they stopped there because Chris Spencer would have not answered the door and let Garrett in to her home without Talitha being with him. Go listen to it. It's on there. So they are stopping by Chris Spencer's because Garrett wants to see if he can get access to Nicole's title to her car. I don't know if it's because he's planning on selling the car or what he's planning on doing. But if you listen very carefully to what he said and what Talitha says, they do drop an Easter egg by saying that Garrett had already paid Chris Spencer $250 of the $500 for the payback of the $500 for the title. Now, as much as I've listened to Garrett has been telling people that that car belongs to him. And I wholeheartedly believe that Garrett is using that he was using that over Nicole's head because she owed $500 to get that title back. And he had paid $250 of it. And until Nicole paid the remainder of what was left or what was due, he was going to keep the title to that car. So at the end of the day, Garrett did walk out of that trailer that day with Nicole's title, according to Ashley. The three of them went into the trailer. Garrett was not leaving Ashley outside in the car by herself. The three of them went in. Talitha and Garrett told Chris Spencer that they had just dropped Nicole off at rehab. And they said they were not, it was Chris Spencer and her boyfriend at the time named Mike. They told Garrett no, that they weren't handing over the title until they got the full amount of money. However, they had the title there on the counter in front of them. Talitha and them got to talking. Garrett's making small talk. Garrett reaches up over the counter and slides the title off the counter and put it in his pocket. Ashley watched him do it. So another interesting fun fact here is that Chris Spencer never came forward, nor did the Mike guy in Ashley's trial. I have no record of them ever being spoken to. There's no their names not listed in any discovery of interviews at all, along with Jason Palladino's. So there's another fun fact as to another ball being dropped. Now we're going to go into them leaving Yeoman, and they're driving back to Jason Palladino's property, where Jason is. Now, here's another place where the story that Talitha tells conflicts, and that is that they get to the property. Well, sorry, let me back up. Talitha is supposedly getting bad news about her best friend's nephew, which is Jason. That's how she wants everybody to, in her interrogation video, think that she's keeping herself at arm's length by not calling these people by their name, but she's giving them titles as if she barely knows them. That she got some bad news about Jason, and that he had thrown a party at the Palladino property the night before, and some shady shit happened, and he's been passed out, and someone had rummaged through his pockets and stolen stuff out of his pockets, and no one has talked to him at all that day, not even Talitha, and she needed to hurry up and get home back to Hodges Drive to check on Jason. So that's what they did. They took her there and they dropped her off. However, Garrett and Ashley both have a different version of events. They claim that when they pulled up to the Palladino property, Jason come flying out the trailer door like gangbusters with a gun going off, and him and Garrett got nose to nose. Jason's screaming and yelling at Garrett and even fires off a gun. Talitha got out of the car, walked straight up to the door, and went into the trailer. Now, what that was really about, I don't know. Garrett tried to tell detectives that it was because Jason was mad that Talitha had been out all night, and he was accusing Jason and Talitha of sleeping together that night. That's not the case at all. We did a live that's about a 3-hour live on Talitha Beckley exposing all of her lies. So if you go in and you listen to that whole live, we go over her interrogation video, and we also read a letter that Talitha wrote to Garrett when Talitha was out on bond. And it's very telling about what was going on with her phone that night, what she did with the phone before she turned herself in. And I personally believe that Jason did order Garrett to kill Nicole. And that is who Garrett was in communication with that whole night, was Jason Palladino. And my thoughts on, well, let me stop right there. Do we have any questions in the chat? Are there any questions or any comments? If you guys that are in here right now, if you guys haven't hit like and subscribe, please do so. I'm going to repost Ashley's fundraising campaign again. Like I said, if I could get at least every single one of my subscribers on the channel to kick $5 over to the campaign for Ashley for her fund, it's going to be used to support whatever needs to be done on her behalf going forward with her post-conviction relief. But if each of you kicked $5, a minimal $5, I mean, in no time at all, we could raise $5,000. That would be phenomenal. But if you can't, I understand, that's fine. Just share it. Make sure it gets shared on your social media. Make sure that you're telling other people about the case, because that's how cases like this become a net. And I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but that's how cases like this make it onto the national news, is because the public gets behind the cause, and there's such an outcry of demand, for justice. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get her story told. We're trying to get people to get behind her cause. So I'm going to post that again really quick in the chat. So if any of you could share it, that would be great. And if you could donate, that would even be better. There's no amount too small. Let me see here. I got to find how to get it into the chat. Here we go. There you go, you guys. That link that I just posted is for her campaign. So we will, and of course, when the time comes to use those funds, we will definitely let you know how the decision was made, and what those funds will be used for. But anyway, no questions. You guys are all following me. I'm not. Let me see here. I'm not boring you. So at this point, Jason comes out. He shoots off the gun, and I believe that is because what happened to Nicole wasn't the way Garrett wanted it, or wasn't the way that Jason wanted it done. And the reason I say that is because, and this is just based on my personal opinion only, based on the communication that I've had with Garrett. And I'll really quick, I'm going to touch on that, and I'm going to touch on it again tonight for those naysayers out there. So I just want to let you guys know that throughout the course of researching this for the past year, I know cold truth, I normally don't like throwing names out there, and I'm not a name caller, and I'll never stoop to that level or spend an entire life trying to trash talk anybody else. But I am going to defend myself. And the things that I do and the receipts that I keep, I do for a reason. And it's for a prime example like this. Throughout the course of research in this case, I have come across things that I felt would be beneficial in helping pursue justice in the Ray Hanish case. And I personally reached out to the prosecutor's office, and I have personally spoken with the prosecutor's investigator. And I have spoken on a three-way call with the prosecutor's office investigator and Detective Janke. And I recorded that phone call for my own personal use so I have proof that it was done. So for someone to make an accusation that I was going to hinder Ray getting justice, you're full of it. And for them to tell you they don't know who I am, they're blowing smoke up your ass, because they do know who I am. I have email correspondence with them, and I have a recording with them. I have given them every bit of information that I have acquired to help Ray's case. And furthermore, anything that I talked about in Ray's case on this channel, before I went public with it, I did speak to his sister and either got her approval or let her know up front. So that wasn't fair. That was a low blow. And for you to pick up the phone and act like you're going to do me harm by calling and telling that I'm talking to Garrett and playing those calls on here. First of all, the laws in my state say that I can, as long as one party knows that the call is being recorded. Second of all, the jail is recording those calls. Number three, Open Secrets did the same thing, and you had absolutely no problem running over there and jumping on her live and participating. Not once did you call Newton County Sheriff's Office when he was on there slandering Ashley or running amok. 32 interviews or 32 recordings on Open Secrets he did. Not once did you call and object to those. So that's a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black. Stop throwing rocks when you live in a glass house. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I don't believe that what happened that day with Nicole was an actual thought out plan. I believe that what Garrett did to Ray was something that Garrett was running around Hodges Drive and the compound bragging about. I truly believe that he was. He has an ego. He does not know when to shut up. He makes himself out to be bigger than life. So I believe that he went back and he was bragging. So I believe that that right there gave Jason, when Jason found out through Garrett that Nicole had flipped on him when they got arrested in Ray's car, I believe Jason then looked at Garrett and said, "Okay, you brought her over here. She's been living at my house for the last month. She knows the goings-ons here. She's got to go. I want her gone." I don't believe that there was an actual plan. I don't believe that it was set up, a play by play. And the reason I say that is because there's been numerous times where I have questioned Garrett Kurtz on this fact. And he's always beat around the bush and gave me a bullshit story. And there's been more than, I would say, 3 or 4 times, and I have it in writing, and for those of you who know me, if I say I've got it in writing, I've got it in writing, where Garrett says, "I didn't know it was supposed to happen that day." And what he means by that is, I believe that when Garrett got in the car with Mikey, Garrett's intentions were to drive to Delphi to buy drugs. I think he made contact with Jason and let Jason know he was coming. And while Mikey and Garrett were making the hour drive to Delphi, to Paladinos, I think Jason put some shit in motion, had Talitha get a hold of Nicole and entice Nicole over to the property. And I know that based on my own self opinion and the fact that Talitha is lying about Nicole already being on the property, because I believe she is the one who lured Nicole there. Garrett has said Talitha lured her there. Excuse me. And I have had people who were in contact with Nicole that day claim that Nicole originally was not there that day. Something made her go to that property because she was scared to be at that property. She had told her family something was going on, that she felt in fear of her life. And I believe it was the threats that Jason had made towards her, but something lured her there. And I think that was the promise of heroin. That's my honest to God's opinion. That is why the two stories don't line up. That's why Talitha lied. I don't believe Mikey Hiddle has a reason to lie about who was on that property. Where Mikey's lies begin are when he's talking about who actually showed up at his apartment. He attempted to say that he don't remember if Garrett and Nicole showed up at his apartment that night. But that's not the story that Talitha gave, and that's not the story that Garrett told me. Garrett confirmed that him and Nicole were at Mikey Hiddle's apartment, and Talitha confirmed that they were there. And I believe the reason that Mikey felt the need to lie about it was because Nicole turned up dead. And he did not want to be forthcoming about a woman's body being found having been connected at his apartment. As silly, or I mean, I don't know. All of these people all seem to have the fear of God in them when it comes to talking about this case. And that still stands true to this day. I mean, we are almost 5 years out, and there are a lot of people who want to tell me tiny little portions of what they know, but then they shut down and say, they're afraid because they know what the Paladinos are capable of, or what they're known to be capable of. So for Ashley to be up close and personal in that situation, um, I feel that she was under a lot of duress and a lot of fear. But my opinion of what transpired was that Garrett was put on the spot when he got there by Jason, with Nicole showing up and Jason saying, "I want it done today." And that kind of falls into play with Garrett standing outside talking to Jason for however long and walking over to the vehicle and Talitha stating, "What did Jason say?" Now, this is in Talitha's interrogation video. Talitha states that she asked Garrett, "What did Jason say?" And she said that Garrett looked at Mikey and then looked at her and said, "Jason said, had a good night. Have a good night." So I also believe that when Mikey and Talitha left in Mikey's car, there is a time frame where Mikey and Talitha show up at Mikey's apartment and Nicole and Garrett don't arrive until a little while later. I have yet to find out where exactly Garrett and Nicole went during that time. I can only speculate that Garrett took her to go pick up what she needed, and that would be heroin. And they arrived back at Mikey's apartment and they went into the bathroom and they did it. And I also believe that Garrett was also supplying that night with Nicole with other things. And we're going to go over that later tonight in Nicole's toxicology report. So that's my opinion on what happened up to that point. And I think that Nicole's tolerance was probably a little higher than what Garrett had anticipated. And him and Talitha either left Mikey's apartment anticipating that Nicole wasn't going to make it in the car ride from Francisville to Kentland, which is another hour, but she did. Lord knows what they would have done if she hadn't made it, because her toxicology report says that she shouldn't have been standing, to be honest. But I don't know what their plan would have been if she, was it to pull over and dispose of her somewhere along the way? I don't know. I'm only speculating here. But the fact that they get to the trailer and he's telling Jasmine to keep Ashley in the back room. And he's telling Nicole and in front of Talitha, "You've got to be quiet. She has kids." And go, I'm assuming that he was planning to lure Nicole into the trailer quietly. And because she was probably so unstable based on what he had given her, he probably felt, because he was now an experienced person when it come to strangling someone with his bare hands, he probably thought that he was going to be able to do it. I don't know what he thought. I don't believe at that moment his plan was for there to be a girl fight. But the girl fight ended up being a great opportunity for chaos to break out. He took full advantage of it. He snatched Nicole up. And when all was said and done, 2 interrogation videos later, after he had told probably literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 150 lies. And by the end of his second interrogation video, the story that I just laid out for you still had not been told, not even close. He had told different versions of different things that never even happened, right down to Chris Mathis doing exactly what Garrett did to Nicole. And at the very end of that video, it's when he realizes that they had more than likely got him on video, backing that car in, wearing a headlamp, still photographs of what he was wearing. He knew he was caught. And then asking, "Have you talked to Ashley?" Knowing the last time he seen Ashley, Ashley was screaming, "I can't get away from this motherfucker. He's kept me with him for an entire week." And Jeff Sneath is putting a gun to Garrett's head, demanding him leave his house. That was the last time he seen Ashley. Do you think he's sitting there thinking that if they had talked to Ashley, Ashley was going to be backing him up or telling the truth about what he did? So when they ask him, "Garrett, did anybody help you?" What do you think? What do you think his thoughts were? He threw Ashley under the bus. And not only did he said she did everything. Everything, the whole nine were his exact words. Well, we've just begun going over the DNA. We've just begun going over the toxicology. If you haven't listened to last week or the week before, where Dr. Silkman came on and went over the lab results, I encourage you to go listen to that. And we're going to touch a little bit more on that tonight at 7 p.m. But I encourage you to go back and listen to all of that. And going forward, I want we are going to be doing some upcoming episodes on Talitha by herself, and we're going to be going over some other cases that we have been able to possibly connect Talitha to, additional murders that she's connected her own self to out of her own mouth. And it really explains why there is such a loyalty between Talitha and the Palladinos, number one. And you have to also understand that Garrett has admitted to me in writing and on audio that I played during a live that he lied at Ashley's trial about Talitha. He said he lied for her and saved her life in prison for murdering Nicole. He said that. And I believe that, and that backs up what Ashley said. You have to remember when Ashley went in to investigators and we're speaking with them, she's sitting there thinking she's going to get up and walk out that day. And she is not knowing for sure. They don't even tell her. They keep saying, "Oh, you're safe. You're safe. You know, you can talk to us," but they won't even tell her if Garrett's arrested. She said she heard that he was, but she didn't know for sure. She knows the reputation of the Palladinos. She knows that Talitha has been Mark Palladino's ride or die buddy for years. Shit, they had just been arrested together, breaking and entering on a house in White County. You know, she knows where Talitha's loyalty lies. So she's sitting there, you know, she's spilling the beans, but she's not spilling all the beans because she's like, shit, you know, in the back of her mind, she knows what she's up against. And then you've got Garrett, who telling on Talitha, he might as well be telling on the Palladinos. And eventually he blames Jason for ordering it. But what do they do about it? Nothing. They don't do anything. You hear Jason Palladino's name thrown around in this trial several times, and yet he's not on any list for discovery as being interviewed. He's not brought in as a witness for the state or the defense, and he's not charged. It's bizarre. It's very bizarre. So I think I'm going to end this wrapping up for those who are new, who are watching new or watching the replay. At the time that Garrett Kurtz was arrested, 2 weeks later, after there being silence in the Delphi case, there is a breaking news press conference announced. Now, mind you, this is 2 weeks after Garrett Kurtz is arrested for the murder of Nicole. And this is where all hell breaks loose with Garrett Kurtz being pulled in as a person of interest in the Delphi murders. And this press release is where they basically pull back on the original sketch that they had put out back in 2017 of the guy on the bridge. And they're now releasing a new sketch, and it's a younger guy sketch. And I'm not going to lie, it looks just like Garrett Kurtz. So I'm going to play a portion of that press conference for those who are watching this video who are not familiar with Ashley's case and maybe not even be familiar with the Delphi case. I think it's important that you understand the gravity that back in 2019, that the impact the Delphi case had on Ashley's case.
We are releasing additional portions of the audio recording from that day. Please keep in mind, the person talking is one person and is the person on the bridge with the girls. This is not two different people speaking. Please listen to it very, very carefully. We are also releasing video recovered from Libby's phone. This video has never before been previously released. The video shows a suspect walking on the bridge. When you see the video, watch the person's mannerisms as they walk. Watch the mannerisms as he walks. Do you recognize the mannerisms as being someone that you might know? Remember, he is walking on the former railroad bridge. Because of the deteriorated condition of the bridge, the suspect is not walking naturally due to the spacing between the ties. During the course of this investigation, we have concluded the first sketch released will become secondary as of today. The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these two little girls. We also believe this person is from Delphi, currently or has previously lived here, visits Delphi on a regular basis, or works here. We believe this person is currently between the age range of 18 and 40, but might appear younger than his true age. Directly to the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you. And you want to know will. A question to you. What will those closest to you think of when they find out that you brutally murdered two little girls? Two children. Only a coward would do such a thing. We are confident that you have told someone what you have done. Or at the very least, they know because of how different you are since the murders. We try so hard to understand how a person could do something like this to two children. I recently watched a movie called The Shack. And there's also a book that talks so well about evil, about death, and about eternity. To the murderer, I believe you have just a little bit of a conscience left. And I can assure you that how you left them in that woods is not what they're experiencing today. To the family, I hope that you all will give them some time because we're going to be asking that there's no media inquiry or no media response for at least the next 2 weeks, and I hope you understand why. The family found out about this information this morning. I just want the family to know that when I take my last breath on this earth, I'll be thinking of them. There's going to be a tremendous amount of questions. I know that. Never in my career have I stood in front of something like this. Please be patient with us, please. We're just beginning. We are just now beginning. And I can tell you on behalf of the sheriff and the police chief, so many other partners that have stood with us over this period of time, that we will not stop.
I just unveiled the person that we believe responsible for the murder of these 2 little girls. I invite media to take a look at that now. It's not up. Kim.
So I don't know what you guys think in chat, but at that point in time, back in 2017, for that reason right there, a lot of people felt that Garrett Kurtz was possibly the person on the bridge. And the fact that he had ties to Delphi, AKA Ashley, a girl from Delphi, was his girlfriend. Although a lot of people didn't do their due diligence to realize that throughout the year of 2017, Ashley didn't even live in Indiana. She was living in Florida. But that didn't stop the rumors from flourishing. And I think that when you look at all of the things, I'm going to pull up here some of the hold on one second. I'm going to share my screen with you guys really quick, and just let this stuff scroll so you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about. For a period of about 2 years after Nicole's death, and throughout the time that Ashley, thank you. Okay, during the time that Ashley was out on bond, all of these things were running rampant all over social media. You know, you have to remember, just because it was on YouTube doesn't mean that it wasn't on Facebook, because it was in, you know, all of the group chatter about Delphi, you know, and of course, Ashley being from Delphi, she was following, you know, the case when she came back from Florida. You know, that was something that hit really close to home. So I'm going to share my screen and just give you guys a quick little view of, these are all thumbnails of all of the different topics that were playing at that time involving Ashley. If you guys can see my screen. Hopefully you can. But a lot of these are the topics that were being discussed every single night of the week. You know, like right now, when you hop on YouTube and it's all about Delphi. Back then, this was the talk. You can see that, I mean, you're talking an hour at a time, 19,000 views right there. A year ago, 13,000 views. This all did astronomical damage. People believing that Ashley Garth had knowledge of the Delphi murders, and they just ruined her because of that, and she didn't. The police absolutely used Ashley against Garrett by telling Garrett that Ashley even says that she believes you participated in the murders. That's not true. Ashley never said that. Ashley never thought that. Here's another one, 11,000 views, an hour-long episode. Um, and this is just a little. Look, Mind Shock, 30,000 views on that one. The Delphi murders, Ashley Garth, really? And so for someone to sit here and say that, oh, Amy's trying to make it out, she's trying to use Delphi. I'm not making it out anything. Other people did. Back in 2019, this is what was transpiring on social media, on YouTube. So I'm not calling people out. I'm not blaming people. What I'm saying is stop and think, and and it is what it is. The police allowed this to go on. They allowed the rumor mill to run rampant. And because they weren't putting factual information out, not only about Delphi, but also about Nicole's case, they were putting out tidbits, but they weren't putting a stop to this. And this helped taint the jury pool going into Ashley's trial. The Delphi murders, Garrett Kurtz. So see, I mean, it I don't want anybody to feel like um I'm throwing them under the using use as, don't say that there wasn't any media coverage on this case, because I guarantee you following it up, they're going to the Facebook groups where they're going to Reddit. If you go to ads of topics of Garrett Kurtz and Ashley Garth, it is what it is. But in regards to Ashley's case, saying has some, okay, yeah, she really got the shit end of the stick on this whole thing. And it's because of the Delphi case and the fact that Garrett was a person of interest. So that's all I'm saying when it comes to the Delphi case. Do I believe, I know for a fact Ashley doesn't have any information about Delphi. Do I think that Garrett has information? I don't know. He claims he does. He claims the Paladinos were involved still to this day. He has told me emphatically he believes that Richard Allen's innocent. How he thinks that, I don't know. But I'll be 150% honest with you. I don't believe a word that comes out of Garrett's mouth. He is an habitual liar. And anything that he has told me that I have found truth in, I've had to dig for it. I've had to work for it. And I've even had to go as far as to basically lay it all on the line to Garrett and say, look, I have ordered your entire case file from Ashley's trial. So he knows now that I have all of the documents that I have. And that is why he knows he can no longer bullshit me. And at some point, I'm going to go over in an evening live some of the most recent chirps from him. But I have been able to ask him about the conversation that he had with Mikey Hiddle that was recorded in Jasper County, where Mikey Hiddle went into the police department to basically let them know who he felt was responsible for Nicole's death. Garrett, blatantly on that conversation, is telling Mikey Hiddle what he did to Nicole. not what he and Ashley did, not what he and Ashley had planned, none of that. He's talking about what he did, and he makes the statement on that call with Mikey that if Jasmine would have just done what the F she was supposed to have done, no one would have saw what they saw. And I asked Garrett point blank what he meant by that and what was Jasmine supposed to do. And he said, and I have it in writing, that he was supposed to keep Ashley in the bedroom. So that is why I feel like what transpired that night was haphazardly played out, and it ended up the way that it did because it wasn't planned out. And furthermore, if this was planned, don't you think Ashley Garth would have walked in to the Lafayette Police Department with a better story than what she had? I mean, that's all that you have to think about is she would have had a better story than what she had, and that was he left me there, he showed up with her, we don't get along, and we got into it. And look, she gave me a black eye. That's the truth. She's never once denied that. She's never once tried to explain. She has said to me and to the detectives and to her attorney, she never touched the scarf. As many times as I tried to re-walk her through that day and night about that scarf sitting on that couch right next to her, she still could not remember ever touching it. And I think the explanation and explaining the actual DNA lab results that Dr. Silkman did on our last live really explained that to me when, DNA is something that, to a jury, they think, oh, DNA, if it's there, she's there. If it's there, she touched it. And I think he did a really good job of explaining how that's not always the case. And it's been it's been done 1,000 times where additional testing is done and someone who has been incarcerated for 20 and 30 years are released. Her case needs to be relooked at. We are raising funds to be able to help support additional testing or an expert who can dig to the bottom of the forensics in this case. Because I wholeheartedly believe that Ashley Garth is innocent, and I believe that Talitha Beckley should be sitting where Ashley is. And I believe that there's proof to that, and that's going to come out to the courts. So that is my recap on Ashley's case. I really hope that those of you who have followed along today, who've been following the case, maybe got a little bit more out of it than what you thought you had knew coming into today. If you are new and you found the channel and you're watching a replay, I do leave the comments on, and I try to go back and answer questions if you post them. I'll try to answer them. Again, the memberships are active now on the channel. It's $1.99 a month to support the channel. That will help cover the cost of, we pay for StreamYard, we pay for apps, the audio, the editing for the videos that we do, the different platforms that we have to pay for, like Canva, to get all of these things up and loaded, the presentations and things like that. Plus, it helps with the documents that we have to buy and pay for, which I've had a little bit of help on that. But there's still more that we have to obtain, not only in just Ashley's case, but in some of the other cases surrounding this, the plea deals and whatnot that were done. But leave your thoughts. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. I'll be back tonight at 7 to go over some of the new stuff that we've acquired in the case, and to talk a little bit about the toxicology report, and to talk about all of the items in this case that were tested. I believe we are up into the range of 13 to 15 different items. And we are going to talk tonight about all of the items that were tested where Ashley's DNA was not present. Since so many naysayers out there want to say, well, Ashley's DNA was all over Nicole's body. It was not. It was not all on all of the items, the tapes, the blankets, like we're going to get into it. So I'll see everybody tonight at 7 if you're coming back in. If not, thanks for watching and spending almost, 3.5 hours with us today. I appreciate it. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on your way out, and I will see you guys tonight at 7. Bye.